Hello again, friends! Our chuckling friends and all of our friends, you are our friends indeed. Welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru here.
AKA friends!
Here in the hottest summer, at least this year. Last year was pretty hot too. Actually, it's just another hot day, and it's only gonna get hotter today with Hot Wrestling Talk. I'm your host, the great Brian Last, and here he is, the man delivering the heat, the leader of the cult of Cornette, Mr. Jim Cornette.
I'm sorry, Brian, I couldn't hear you. I'm down on my knees. Hold on, let me get back up here. I'm down on my knees, just begging and pleading and urging and cajoling the next 2 days to be over with, because I don't know about you up there, but in 2 days from now, the heat wave is going to break. We're having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave. Well, it's going to go away. We're going to have highs in the 80s with dew points in the 50s instead of highs in the 90s with dew points in the 80s. We got 80-degree dew points here in the metro Louisville area, all around the big radar viewing area they have on my WDRB weather. And it's like it's a swamp. It's a swamp. When you open the door to walk outside, you hear Creedence Clearwater Revival music. Disgustifying is what it is. So if you get what we're going to get in 2 more days, and then you'll get it a day later,
I'll be down on the
then you'll have some relief.
All right, well.
Have you checked your dew point?
I haven't. I know it's up there because it's one of those days.
Up there.
It has to be up there today. If it was ever going to be up there, yesterday, today, and tomorrow are the days.
Can I just be cranky here at the top of the program? I don't know whether I'm cranky. I don't know whether I'm bumfuzzled, as Aunt Lola would say. I'm regusted, as the Kingfish would say. I don't know what to or as Mama Cornette used to say, I just don't understand people. Can I elaborate, Brian, here at the top of the program? Maybe you can try to help me understand what's going on. Here are the pen. We have a lovely audience in the cult of Cornette. And I think that we've proven, and previous clinical studies have shown, as a matter of fact, some of the surveys that we've done, that our base fan base, as they say, is one of the more educated and the more high performing and high earning and high thinking, and they're all high. High.
Want to get high?
I can't come down ever since you came. But nevertheless, they're very level-headed people, the majority of the cult of Cornette. But as we've all said at one time or another, there's an SOB in every crowd. But what has happened in the last several days, I don't understand. I don't know if there's a moral to this story. I don't know if there's some type of conclusion to be drawn about crowd psychology. I don't know if there's a simile or a homily, or I just don't understand people. Everybody knows at this point, I believe that's safe to assume, that Hulk Hogan passed away last week as we're sitting here now, several days ago, not even a full week. And we did I don't know. It wasn't what did we do? It wasn't a tribute nor necessarily an obituary. It was a discussion of his life and career as we saw it on the last program you and I did. And that was controversial already, because literally as soon as the news was out, people were starting to tweet us, and they were starting to put comments on a YouTube and a blah, blah. You're not going to talk about Hogan? And some people were like, I can't wait to see them roast Hogan now that he's dead. Like we had somehow been concocting voodoo dolls and waving spells over them on a daily basis. If I had that power, I'd use it on somebody else and do the whole world a favor.
When have we ever waited until death to roast somebody?
Well, exactly. And they're more succulent when they're still alive. The meat's fresher. But nevertheless, I'm not trying to go down that path. Point is, some people say, oh, I can't wait to see him roast him. And some people are saying, Oh, you're not going to talk about it? 3 hours later, as I mentioned on the program we just did, I was in the dentist chair and I was shot full of Novocaine and came home mid Thursday afternoon with a fucking numb face and got this news. So I called you. I said, so we waited a respectful time until I could get my feeling back and recorded the next day and rushed it out. And by that point, we had people screaming, I can't believe they're not going to talk about it. Like there were some kind of vultures who, for the sake of, oh, we'll get 50,000 more views if we talk about this dead person right now and scoop everybody. We're not that crass. Leave that to the crass people. We're higher crass than that. I always wanted to be high crass.
First crass.
First crass all the way, baby. But anyway, so then after they had supposed we were going to roast him, or I can't wait to see how they're going to defend him, there was that. And then, you know, you're not going to talk about it like it was goddamn going to be something. We sit here on the anchor desk, and then we release the clip. And Brian, I don't know what it said. This is the point I'm going to make about human relations, human beings, the way that people cognitively assimilate information. We released this clip talking about the life and career of Hulk Hogan as we saw it, you and me. And it's had, well, it's probably by now we're sitting here past 600,000. It certainly will be by the time people hear this, views. And thousands of comments, but they've all listened to the same clip. And there are people going, I can't believe that they actually took up for that no good son of a bitch. And there are people saying, you mean to tell me that they couldn't even be respectful to this man when he's dead now and they still have to trash him?
Yeah, we can't win.
And there are also people, I can't believe the mental gymnastics they went through to try to justify. It's the same fucking clip. It's the same fucking clip. What's Again, your thoughts on what the fuck is the matter with people? Mama Cornette didn't ever say that.
I think most of the listeners, the majority, the vast majority, were probably in the same boat as you and I. You know, two people just discussing this major star beyond wrestling who just died and evaluating everything. We didn't take any sides in anything. But again, there are people who are so deep-seated on one side or another that they don't even want a discussion to be had. That's the sickness. It's like you can think what you want, believe what you want, not want to hear what you don't want to hear, but when you don't even want a discussion to take place. And again, it was on both sides. It was the people that thought, because we've had so much fun laughing at the conduct of Hulk Hogan. Remember, it was a few months ago, he called him Benjamin Shelton. I mean, that just happened.
Yes.
Of course we laughed at that. They thought because of the tone of those clips, we couldn't have an honest discussion about the biggest star in wrestling history. And then there are other people who thought, he's so awful and an admitted racist. How could you give that much time to him? You couldn't win. And I think we actually did a great job. And I think the conversation was similar probably to a lot of conversations a lot of fans were having around the country.
And there was an element of Trump botism also, I noticed, because as soon as he's associated with that subgenre of thinking, then everything else it's fine now. But I just, again, you know, and we encourage everybody, if you want to see for yourself or hear for yourself or decide for yourself or play with yourself while you're listening to it, it's on YouTube. And look at, if you don't even want to listen to the thing, read some of these fucking comments and tell me, how are these people listening to the same exact discussion and bringing away completely diverse viewpoints on the subject.
Yeah, I saw someone post, because they posted this in several videos. It was like such a deep thought, they had to share it across several videos.
Either share it or shit it if it's that deep.
Clearly, Brian's a Hulkamaniac. It was like, oh, that was your takeaway from the discussion we had there. All right, sure. And it meant a lot to you. You can't make everyone happy, but there are plenty of people, the vast majority of the audience were happy with the discussion, I think.
Well, yeah, but some people are they're just contrary, as Uncle Tommy used to say.
Yeah, they're quite contrary, as a matter of fact. Are you surprised by the level of coverage? Still, I mean, it's Monday, or it's Tuesday now, but Monday Night Raw happened yesterday, and obviously they did something there, but it's still been in the newspapers to the point New York Post had, Brutus Beefcake quotes. So they can get another article out of it. No, seriously. And
the last time he was in the papers up there, he was in Boston, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
That was a whole
I apologize.
Other thing, but
completely different. Are you surprised? Cycle.
Again, biggest wrestling star ever. That's one thing, but a mainstream star that people who weren't even wrestling fans knew. Are you surprised how much coverage and how big the coverage was?
I'm actually thinking because it will talk about this here in a minute, maybe, but Ozzy in the same cycle, I don't think Ozzy Osbourne didn't get this level of attention, or possibly I was out of town for the first couple of days though. So that might've hampered my consumption of everything, but I get not only because for wrestling fans, but as we mentioned, and this drives it home even more, because he got on all the mainstream talk shows, had the movie parts, had the television, and what was my quote that people liked when people looked at him when they first saw him? They look at the fuck that. The visual side of him, he was magnetic and he drew your attention. And so to anybody, and I learned this on a regional level, but it applies on a national level. When you think about it, when I was trying to get television for Smoky Mountain Wrestling in East Tennessee, people didn't know who the current big stars were, even though they were on TBS or WWF or whatever. They knew Ron Wright, because that's who they grew up on. But the people they grew up on, or the people that grew up, were now the ones in decision-making positions. They were heads of programming or heads of TV or heads of companies that would sponsor something. You see where I'm going with this? So to, whatever period of time, from if you were of whatever age from 1983 to 1998, Hulk Hogan was on everything. And now those people are in, positions of power in media and etc., to where that was a legendary figure and an icon of their generation.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And again, major star.
That's why I said it.
I think we kind of seen the beginning in terms of at least the wrestling end of it, although it went beyond wrestling, the coverage of Hogan and, the different viewpoints. More than likely, we're going to keep seeing this replay over the next few years when some of the big legends of wrestling age out.
That's a less severe way to put it, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think if you think of, who's left of a certain age group who are a certain star level, every passing is going to become this going forward. Here are all the amazing accomplishments. Here are all the good things he did. And here's why he's terrible to the core. And I think we're going to keep seeing that over and over.
Oh, well, everybody gets an opinion now, too. Because they can remember what I've always said, Brian. People were always this stupid. We just didn't have Twitter.
You brought up Ozzy Osbourne before. Any thoughts on the passing of Ozzy Osbourne? I was surprised how many listeners actually got in touch and asked for your opinion on this.
Well, yes, and that's the thing. Again, when I was on the trip, we were at the library all day, and then we'd come back and, just freshen up as old people do. And I went and had dinner and I'm going to sleep. Right. And I, didn't even really pay attention to television when I was nodding off. I was reading a book. So I come home and the first thing Stacy says, Ozzy died. I don't know what the fuck. Because we had just seen the clips of him doing the final performance. And yes, he did it sitting down, but he did it from a goddamn cool ass looking throne or whatever. So the point is, I was surprised because you wouldn't think that he was that near, what did you say, aging out a minute ago, the euphemism we used, when he's just been able to do a fucking show. A fucking show. It's Ozzy. It's Ozzy. He did a fucking show.
That was Ozzy. I don't know what you're doing. What is that? What voice is that?
That's Ozzy, right? He did the fucking show. I'm the fucking Prince of Darkness.
Do you remember? Did you ever see the Jerky Boys movie?
No. I have more pride in myself than to go even to see something titled that. Who knows what may be happening in those aisles in the theater and when the lights go down? The Jerky Boys.
Well, it's a bizarre movie that I can't even recall. It's been a while since I've seen it, if it's good or just bad. But Ozzy has a cameo in there. There's a few cameos. He plays the manager of some, I think it was a nightclub act who one of the Jerky Boys convinced to leave. And Ozzy goes hey, where is he? And the guy goes, he joined the Monkees. And Ozzy's line, the one line I remember, the fucking Monkees.
I used to watch the Osbournes. Stace and I, as a matter of fact, would sit and watch the Osbourne. I forget what night of the week it was on, or whether it was probably on multiple times, even then it was on cable, but we would sit and watch the Osbournes 20 years ago or whatever. Because Ozzy was that wacky Ozzy Osbourne. Kelly and the other kid, I can't remember his name. They were both pudgy and fairly inoffensive. And Sharon had cute dogs.
It's a great tribute.
Well, they're not dead yet. So I can give my unvarnished feelings on it. They were, that's basically where they were at. And then the puppies. And that was good for a couple of years, but I guess how the fuck old was Ozzy? Because when you think about it, with the various, I guess he's been on various types of drugs and alcohol and fucking lived on Neptune. I don't know what the fuck all Ozzy Osbourne's done.
76.
Jesus Christ. That's isn't that 98 to 104 with the heat index for the average human being that hasn't swum in chemicals for their entire life?
Kills all the bacteria. There's so many chemicals in there.
We need to, have they donated his body to science or donated it to science fiction? But no, the music was wonderful. The Osbournes was a nice light diversion for a couple years, but Ozzy seemed to be the charismatic one there. I'm sorry to see that he's passed on, but I'm amazed that when you think about it, that he could have not only lasted this long, but sat there and remembered all the words and done all the fucking songs here a couple weeks ago.
Of course, he had an involvement with wrestling, WrestleMania 2 in Chicago. Ozzy and Captain Lou Albano managed the British Bulldogs when they won the tag titles from the Dream Team. It's one of those weird moments where Dynamite takes one of the craziest bumps of his career. The camera misses it.
Yeah.
And then the Bulldogs win, and as they're down on the ground, just got their ass kicked, but they're the champions. The only attention is being paid to Ozzy and Captain Lou. The Bulldogs are basically ignored while Ozzy and Captain Lou are interviewed.
And wasn't that the bump that Dynamite fucked himself up on?
It wasn't the one where he went down.
The one where he gave up, but it was gave out rather, but it was the one kind of that you figure was what the cause of it was.
Footage emerged that after years of hearing the rumors about Dynamite blew out his back here or there. The footage, it was like a house show. I want to say maybe Hamilton, Ontario, or somewhere in Canada. It was the Bulldogs against Morocco and Norton, I think.
Yeah.
And he was just running the ropes, and I think Morocco put his knee up. and he went down like he'd been shot. Just it was that simple.
I remember. I think that was the spot. But I've seen the clip, but it's been a while. But they were doing a crisscross spot. He was hitting the ropes. I remember that, and I think they were going for that. But I think it may have been even as he stepped over the other heel, he just something snapped or something collapsed, or he just fell into that thing and just crumpled and never got back up. I think it may have happened just on the jump over, and when he landed, blah, 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 and that was. Well, nevertheless, we're getting sideways here because we're talking about Ozzy, not Dynamite. But Ozzy, to me, the biggest connection he ever had with wrestling, he didn't even probably know it for probably 4 or 5 years. Maybe somebody smartened him up. The Road Warriors music.
The Road Warrior pop. How much of that was the music?
Road Warrior pop. Yeah, it was perfect because believe me, of anybody that's going to speak to the people this week or this month, I'm probably the last one left that's been standing in the ring this many times, hearing the fucking music hit and hearing the people go crazy when they would fucking come out. It was the perfect match of music and talent. And that's what, I've always appreciated about music is sometimes it may not be everybody's favorite song they want to come out to, but you have to fit the fucking presentation. And that was the perfect match. And I'm not even saying the music got them over more or they, got the music over what it just matched perfectly. That was the vibe. That was the feeling you wanted everybody to have. And it was that violent, down, down, down. And it wouldn't have worked if and it didn't work when various places would change their fucking music because they had to, rights fees, whatever. Back in the good old bootleg days, we were on, think about this, Brian, 1986, 87, it's not like they're just doing it in territories where they're on 6, 7, 8 mid-market TV stations, or we're on TBS. Here we got 70, 80 something fucking, no, maybe 100 by then. 100 syndicated stations. And Crockett's just playing this music and they never paid anybody. How the fuck did we get away with that for so long now in retrospect?
Vince. How did Vince get away in New York, doing a lot of business in California, doing business with the record companies eventually? Championship Wrestling began with Thriller. It was Hulk Hogan coming to the ring to Thriller. Piper's Pit, like the unofficial theme to Piper's Pit is Owner of a Lonely Heart, like the instrumental version of it.
Oh, that's right.
But Thriller, the biggest song of all time even then. And that was the intro to the show for like 2.5 years.
And, and the only time that they said anything about it in Atlanta was in 89 when they bought the company and somebody figured it out that, hey, should we be playing all this shit? And then they'd still play some shit, but they wouldn't play other shit. They made us change our music with the most obscure fucking track possible. And then they had the Steiners coming out to Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah, as soon as they changed the Midnight Express music, it was Steiners. Skyscrapers music was real music. Flying Brian came out to Def Leppard for a while, I think.
Yes. It seems like we'll just selectively figure out who might not find out.
So you mean Giorgio had a problem with you guys, but not Eddie Gilbert? The same producer would be the same problem.
Oh, and remember when Dusty Hill of ZZ Top lived in Houston and was a big wrestling fan. And when the Fantastics were there, of course, since it was a Fabulous Ones homage, they were doing the same thing Stan and Steve had done in Tennessee. They did the ZZ Top style videos with the girls and the old car, and they came out to Sharp Dressed Man. And Dusty Hill came as a fan one night and ended up, Bobby and Tommy went over to his house and visited with him a number of times while they were in the territory, whatever. But They heard Dusty Hill wants to see you. Oh shit, we're daddy's suing us. He didn't give a shit. He didn't tell the record company, I guess. But he was a fan. He liked it. What were we talking about?
The Adventures of Ozzy and Harriet.
Oh, Ozzy. It's a shame that he's gone, but it's a miracle that he was here that long.
What do you think of the idea of knowing your time is running out, your family knowing your time is running out, and doing a show like he did? I mean, I saw clips of fans crying while he was singing Mama, I'm Coming Home, which, actually of all the songs, considering how sick he looked, that's the one that would get you. What do you think about like just knowing, all right, like the doctor says I only have X amount of time. I'm going to do something with like all the different players throughout my career and all the different people. What do you think of that?
Well, it was nice he could. I wonder, did they know he was like this close? Oh, shit. Well, hopefully we won't have to fucking postpone this date. I mean, in his health, just of late, I assume they knew that if he's going to do it, he probably should do it now. And I think that was a touching thing. And from the clips that I saw also, several of his bandmates were, emotional and everything. So that was great. But I wonder if they knew that he was 2 weeks away. They're like, shit, he might keel over on the stage. I don't know if I'd want to cut it that close or not. If I'm 2 weeks away, I'm like, just don't no flash photography, please.
G.G. Allen always said he was going to die on the stage, and then he overdosed on St. Mark's Place. So it didn't happen.
It didn't. Well, hey, but just think about it. Many comedians have lived that, dying on stage, and survived.
All right. Well, this has been Death Talk. Jim, any thoughts on the passing of Malcolm-Jamal Warner?
What happened to him? I don't know. I'm not even aware of this.
This must have happened during your trip. He drowned, apparently saving his daughter from scary conditions in the water, and unfortunately he drowned. From The Cosby Show and Malcolm and Eddie, and a musician.
Well, I've heard the name. I never saw The Cosby Show because that coincided with the 80s with I never saw 80s primetime TV until I would go search things out later. And, then by then we all knew about Cosby. But I've heard the name. I couldn't pick him out of a lineup, but I'm sorry to hear that happened. Where were they? Were there's another one of these beach undertow type of situations?
I can't say for sure. I didn't read all the articles about it, but it was something like that.
There's something to be said for swimming pools with clearly marked heights and depths and things and such. Instead of these, I don't know if I was a beach. Well, you're a beach person, but they don't let you swim in the radioactive waters of Long Island, do they? But like if I was in Florida, California, or whatever, was used to the beach, it may be one thing. But that's just swimming out there in the middle of a bunch of water scares the fuck out of me.
That was one of my final straws with Long Beach. It's like I've been swimming in this ocean my entire life. I swim in the winter. I'm a good swimmer. I can swim in pools too, obviously. You won't let me go out there with my friends because it's too dangerous. I just saw a 6-year-old with a fucking surfboard run out there. They let the surfers go out there, but they don't let the body surfers go out there.
What are you saying now? They only let children go to play in the ocean now up there?
They'll let anyone with a surfboard go out if it's a little rough, but they won't let anyone who actually is in the water all the time go out. So, you gotta
what do you consider a little rough?
Waves. Just waves.
Waves.
Waves. That's what you wait for. That's what you wait for all year. When can I get some good waves?
Why do you want waves? That'll jostle you about and create dangerous conditions where you might be sucked in by an undertow and fucking flung out to sea like a goddamn piece of human garbage or a fucking plastic condom that's been discarded off the edge of a fucking broken pier.
It may feel good. Jim, any thoughts on the passing of Chuck Mangione?
He don't feel so good, does he? I did hear about the Chuck. How did you say it that one time? Chuck Mangione? And it's terrible, but I get, how old was he? How old was Chuck Mangione when he just stopped feeling so good? Do you have that information in front of you? He had to be, because if he was feeling so good in the 70s.
84.
Okay, well, I was going, oh, geez, that's even older than I thought. Well, maybe I was going to say he might have had some kind of aneurysm from blowing that hard and fucking stressing his head all that time, but maybe it was strengthening his lungs at the same time. But Chuck, yeah, we're going to miss you, Chuck. We hope you feel better.
Are there any other recent deaths you wish to talk about?
I don't know. You're the one that keeps bringing up fucking people dying one right after the other like it's a goddamn plague out here. Can't you talk about anything aspirational and uplifting?
Well, of course, Jim, when one passes, you really just hope that your plans are followed. You don't know what's going to happen with your estate. You won't be here. What's going to happen with your money? So while you're living, you got to spend that money and spend it right. What about Cornet's Collectibles at JimCornette.com?
Well, if you just have anything left over at the end of the month, folks, and you don't know what to do with it, send it to me at JimCornette.com. You can see the finest in merchandise, from the action figures to the books and DVDs, the certificates, the autographed photo. Everything's autographed. I sign anything but a check, pal. And you can go to JimCornette.com and see all of that and wonderful, wonderful things on sale right now and wonderful announcements to be made in the future. We're already planning just a wonderful holiday season at JimCornette.com.
All right. Well, it's your show.
Yeah. No, it's not. Not one lick of this is my fault.
Well, we'll see what happens. But Jim, as we get back to the grind, let's talk about whatever recent stuff you have watched up to now from WWE television.
All right. Well, basically, since we have gotten back to our regular schedule after my out-of-town trip, and obviously the Hogan news has taken all the air out of the room in all wrestling circles, especially. They're continuing to do programs because we're just days away from the biggest two-night event of the summer, folks. SummerSlam. I still say Rocky Cronodle ought to trademark that before it's too late. But we'll talk about just briefly about SmackDown and Raw, folks. Don't think this is going to be a long dissertation, because the point is going to be made by talking to you about what we didn't see. But the point is, do you think, is it just because I took a week or so out of town and didn't pay attention for a week or two? But is anybody clamoring for SummerSlam like it's it's SummerSlam, but much less like the first two night and the second only to WrestleMania type of, oh God, yes. For the fans, is it, I'm Kyle the Lonely Jew on Christmas?
I mean, as you're saying that, I don't know what you want me to say. I'm agreeing with you. You're talking me into being unenthusiastic about this. It's not, we felt the same way about WrestleMania. And again, that was a weird build. It was extra weeks.
No, I didn't. I still knew it was going to be WrestleMania, and there's a lot of big shit going on. This is worse.
Well, we'll talk about the lineup.
Well, I mean, just the anticipation. The anticipation.
It doesn't feel like there's too much. Maybe for a match or two. Not to say that various things won't blow people away, but I don't know. I'm not really... It's been a weird year for WWE. It's been a weird year of building things. The TV isn't as strong as it was, I don't think. This Unreal show's about to drop, and we may have to talk about that and watch that, because...
Drop may be a word from some of the previews I've seen. I was afraid you were going to say we're going to watch that, but there's going to be some demand for. I can already tell you right now. I'll blow one of our surprises. This unreal, unscripted, behind the scenes, whatever the fuck. I've already seen one instance in one of these previews where I know the way that a couple of people involved in this thing talk or react in certain situations. And it seemed to me that they weren't very surprised by the surprise. So we'll go into more detail whenever we see this thing.
You know, there is a big difference between documentary and reality TV. Reality TV, just in its name, would almost indicate that it's real, and it almost never is. It almost always is a put on for the cameras. Again, we'll see what this is. They're very excited about it. Tune in to watch us expose the business this week on Netflix. But there may be stuff coming out of this, apparently, about the Cena heel turn and various things behind the scenes. I wonder if there's anyone who will refuse to participate.
It would be refreshing, but I think at this point, why?
Right?
Why?
When they did the Cody and Brandy show and like the Young Bucks were like, they were there, but they were like blacked out. Like their faces were like, you couldn't see who they were and everything.
Well, but nobody in the WWE is allowed to have anything personal against people. It prevents anything involving their business. So that would be the difference maker there. But well, let's talk about SmackDown and Raw. They did 2 different Hulk Hogan tributes, and there were some similarities and there were some differences. But let's talk about that. And I didn't even, in the rush of things over the weekend and trying to catch up, I didn't even notate what towns they were. Oh, Cleveland they were in for SmackDown. I don't think I know what city they were in for Raw. But they opened the SmackDown show.
Raw was in Detroit.
Okay. Cleveland, Detroit. But they had 2 fucking days in between. Oh, Jesus Christ. That mean they all had to stay in Toledo? Anyway, that's a Midwest joke if you didn't get that one, Brian. So all the talent and the officials were on the stage for SmackDown. And then you saw that Brian Blair, Ted DiBiase, Jimmy Hart, Bruce Pritchard, Gerald Briscoe, Sergeant Slaughter, Jim Duggan. And I got to be honest with you, I was grasping, trying to think of anybody else from that generation that's still around, is what I'm trying to say. Not that, the Bischoff said he couldn't make it. He was at Mondays. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in the WWF, somebody tweeted out, like, out of the first 10 WrestleManias, there's like 3 or 4 guys still around that were in those matches or some shit. And
Tito.
And Tito's always around.
But he was in the first.
But he wasn't here.
First 8 WrestleManias and 9 if you consider the dark match.
No, I meant the main events. The WrestleMania main event. There's only like 3 or 4 guys left.
Arriba.
Well, but he wasn't in the main event.
But it doesn't matter. He worked his heart out.
He's still arriba. All right. Anyway, you're going to die on this hill. I'll move on. Point is, they're all on the stage, is what I'm telling you. And Triple H was in the front and center, and he did a speech. And at first there'd been kind of light Hogan chants as they zoomed in because they had the graphic on the screens in the building and everything. And I just noted as I was listening to Triple H speak, as they're kind of panning and or, just seeing the whole stage, a lot of the guys were looking like we're enduring this, but we've been sadder. Is that a good way maybe to say what it looked like? Because these guys weren't the contemporaries of Hogan, and he's probably not been the most endearing figure in his brief pop-ins over the last few years to the locker room. So they weren't, Jimmy Hart, yes, his close friend, and Briscoe's one of the people that discovered him 50 years ago or whatever. But did you get the impression a lot of the talent was like, okay, well, we're supposed to, this is like a school assembly thing?
Well, the first thing you look for is who's in the front line. Randy Orton was there, and Randy Orton didn't seem like that. He seemed like he actually genuinely was, I don't know if moved is the word, or just observing the memorial.
Yeah.
But again, there's a different relationship there. His father wrestled against Hogan in the prime era. He grew up seeing Hogan.
And also, he, at least 20 years ago, was in the locker rooms with him. So he's kind of the bridge of those two generations where you were with the guy every night, and it graduated to, we never see this guy except when he pops in and, fucking sells beer.
From what we've heard publicly, it's not like some of the guys have hidden it. I mean, Seth Rollins was very vocal about it. Thank God he wasn't there for this. It would have made it awkward. But it was the contemporary wrestlers, the wrestlers of today, that were the ones who didn't want him around. Or at least not everyone, but, that's the crowd. The wrestlers who were in the locker room with Hogan didn't feel that way. At least in WWF. I don't know about, Brett may have something to say or something. But, the wrestlers...
But Brett never has anything bad to say about anybody. Come on.
But I think... there's a difference there. And when you see the people in that front line, Jimmy Hart, Brian Blair, who, that Tampa connection, they started together, I believe. It was interesting to see who was there and how they were reacting. They brought Sergeant Slaughter in. Cody front and center next to Triple H. He is supposed to be the face of the company.
Well, actually,
that is the job. That is the role, you would think.
That's a required position in that, respect.
And again, who knows what Cody thinks? Cody could probably see things like we did on the show from various perspectives. And, but still, he is that guy. That is the role. And it's a role that Cody takes very seriously. We talked about, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, AEW's reaction, but we talked about in the past, on that last show, they banned Linda Hogan. I forgot what the actual tweet was. It was a tweet from Tony saying, you join your husband in being banned. And I think that says a lot about what the modern wrestlers, especially the people that were there when AEW started.
Well,
it's not just there.
Actually, somebody just retweeted that. So I saw that. I actually know a Linda Hogan tweet, but I can't quote it chapter and verse, but she had said, well, if these people out there rioting want to be taken seriously and used a little bit possibly more racially descriptive language, not a big slur or anything, but if these what people want to be taken seriously, then they can't be, because it was during some riots because of, I think, George Floyd.
My point was they didn't say you're banned for being ignorant. They said you join your husband in being banned. That was the first time anyone had heard that.
Well, her residual goofiness was transferred over to him in that effect, and it inflamed it. It basically made people think, the whole fucking family.
They began the show Friday and Monday. We'll talk about Monday shortly with the tribute. You had Triple H there. You had the video. Do you agree that's what they should have done? That's how SmackDown needed to begin, or what do you think?
Oh, wait. If they were going to do anything, it had to be at the start. So the placement is the only question was what they were going to do, but whatever they did, it had to be at the start. You couldn't, because that's what everybody's waiting for, and they would zone out for anything else. They had to see what they were going to do. They had to see what they were going to say. And again, and I can hear the meetings now in Stamford or wherever they're having their meetings these days. They're saying that we can't, go into his personal situation because in our universe, in the canon, as they say, of our programming, the world that we have created, we are going to celebrate the biggest star in the business at it and how he was a mainstream icon for a lot of people and had this long career. We're not going to delve into a goddamn adjudicate his personal issues. And that's what they did. And they did it well. I thought the video, we'll talk about them both together because there's something interesting I'll go into in a second, but I thought they did a better job with the video on Monday because they had more time to put it together, but still the Friday video was longer and it had the Triple H narration. And I think that, I don't know whether that's something that he wanted to do or whether, I mean, he wanted to do it because he did it, but I don't know if it had been his idea or if someone, you know, in production who was putting this thing together said, hey, you ought to do this to make it even, you know, bigger gravitas, more important, whatever. But they just did a 7-minute career retrospective chronologically all the way through Hall of Fame, etc. And then came back out. The biggest thing to me was the people in the arena. There was, I think Detroit was better than Cleveland for him. When they did the 10-bell salute, there was nice applause and got a bigger Hogan chant than the one they had going before when Triple H started speaking. And then after the video, nice applause. And there was a short Hogan. But I'm wondering, could you tell that not only was there a little heat? Because, I mean, these are the modern hardcore fans. He's not a hero to that audience because of his controversies and, you know, in and out of the business and exaggerations and tall tales, whatever. But also, it's just not the age group anymore. If this was Austin, would they have been, I guess what I'm saying is, would there have been a big chant? Because they get a bigger fucking chant when he shows up, Austin. Have we removed ourselves too far timeliness for the average wrestling fan, even if they haven't formed a negative opinion of it?
I don't know, because I think Detroit, it seemed like it was a pretty strong reaction. Again, it was
stronger there.
There are some boos mixed in with the Hogan chants, and you do have to, you know, equate for that. You have to take into account the idea that there are fans there that may not react at all, or may stand there silently, or may boo. But again, in terms of the audience they're hitting with that video, and I thought both videos were very well done with some very interesting things put into the second video. But I think the fan base that goes to the shows, a lot of them may be people that, at a minimum, caught the tail end of Hulkamania 20 years ago in WWF, or maybe even WCW. Look, if I'm a fan, I'm not going to the shows, but there are plenty of fans my age who grew up in the same era that I did, and the fans a little bit older than us who were watching Saturday Night's Main Event in 1985. So I don't think it's outrageous to think that it's the audience. It's not like it's just all young kids going. You know, again, you can't get around the self-induced issues that were front and center, and some fans just never are going to look past it.
And I think that was kind of the sad thing. And I don't know, maybe it's just, you know, like Dundee used to say about me when I first started, Cornette, if we ever smarten you up, it'll kill your gimmick. Dominic on Raw Monday night was standing in the front row chewing gum and just looking around like, when will this bullshit be over with?
How about Ciampa?
Through the whole thing.
How about Tommaso Ciampa out there on SmackDown with no shirt on?
Well, but did they put him out there because he's bald and people might from a distance would think Triple H was out there? More on that in a second. But the point at Dominic did not look upset is what I'm saying. And I now probably put heat on him, but he was on goddamn television. But the talent again didn't seem broken up on Raw, except this time Bischoff was able to be there. There were again few people in front and center. Bruce has been on front and center on everything.
Representing
and
Vince.
They did a different, I'm sorry?
Oh, I just said representing Vince and the role of Vince.
Yeah, yes.
Big fat Bruce.
And they did a new video to a song who, I'm sorry, I do not know the artist or origin of, but as I said, they had more time. It was a nice, more nicely edited piece. I thought a little more succinct. just because they had a little more time to work on it over the weekend, but highlights of his career, etc. And he got a better Hogan chant. But the thing that was different about Raw, it was disorienting to me at first because they had all the talent on the stage again, all the Raw crew. And Triple H started speaking. And then I realized Triple H wasn't on stage. They played the audio of the speech he made from SmackDown Friday night.
Yeah. It took me a second too. I'm like, where's Triple H? I hear him. It sounds like he's saying the same thing he said the other day.
Yes. And he stumbled over the same word. And then I realized that's why I like is Tommaso out there so people at a distance will think it's him. But that was what was a little disorienting to me sensorily at first. Is like, where the fuck is he? And then I realized, well, he can't be there because he's not saying these things. So he was with us in spirit and on audio tape. But that was those were the tributes to, and they played a few other clips with statistics of how many times he'd been at WrestleMania or did this or that, the other thing. But those were the main two tributes. And I think they had to do that because of what he meant to the company. It would have been, I'm not saying don't acknowledge it at all, but they could have just said, oh, golly, we're sorry to hear Hulk Hogan passed away. And now here's Chelsea Green. So I think they had to do that because of the level of magnitude that he presented to, to the fans of the company.
It's also important to note they're still in the Hulk Hogan business, although he's passed. They're going to be working with his estate. They have new action figures they just announced. They already sold out the pre-order for the new LJNs. WWE heard that other companies were making LJN-style figures for like $50 a pop, and they said, watch this, we're going to kill you guys. And they released everything for $25. Trying to destroy the independent toy market is a part of what it is, I think. But those figures sold out already. There are other lines of toys they have with Mattel, and there are plenty of Hulk Hogan figures in the pipeline, and there are plenty out there right now. They have lots of merch up there. Money going to a good charity, the Hogan family. No, money going to his family, of course.
Oh, good Lord. Wait a minute now. You're going to kill their business. People say my money's going to go to the rest of the family?
Well, no, I mean, his family.
Maybe Brooks doing all right.
Well, that's my point. Whoever's running his estate, whoever it is, they're going to more than likely be in business with WWE going forward. Just like, there are people who work the estate of Marilyn Monroe and James Dean and Elvis Presley. It's going to be like that. Michael Jackson. Think of everything Michael Jackson was accused of. And he still made, $1 billion since he died. The estate did, at least. So they're going to still be in the Hulk Hogan business. He's the biggest star in company history. They had to do something along the lines of what they did, I think. What do you think about the second video having, and if it was in the first video, I just didn't see it, Hulk Hogan and Vince for a second there. Vince raising his hand at WrestleMania 9 at the end of the night while Brett was in the back saying, what the fuck did these guys do to me? But do you have a problem with that? With the idea they included a picture of Vince in there, or do you think it belongs?
They had to. Again, and I might have missed it. I didn't see it on Friday, or they might not have done it, or they might have second-guessed themselves after they didn't do it, or whatever. But again, it's a bigger story if you ignore that if anybody knows who the fuck Hulk Hogan is and it meant anything to them, and or the WWF/E, they know Vince was around for a while, 40 years or so, and they were synonymous with each other. It's, yes, if in Dean Martin's obituary, they had plenty of pictures of him, but they had to have a picture of Jerry Lewis, just one.
Lady.
Whatever.
Yes. No, of course.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying, lady. So no, it would have been a bigger deal if they hadn't, then people would have just called attention to it. It happened in the world that existed at that time. So sorry if we can't, if there's a picture of fucking John Wilkes Booth jumping out of the goddamn box seat at the Ford Theater. I think we can show that too. It's a thing that happened. Anyway.
I wonder where Mr. T is. We haven't heard anything from him.
Well, he better keep his head down with the way things are going, because anything could happen. And Brian, what you've done here, you realize what you've done here,
I haven't done anything. What are you talking about?
I'll tell you what you've done here. You've established that sometimes it's easier to make a living by dying than it is by living. And a lot of people out there are dying to make a living. It seems like you need to coalesce those two things.
What is this delivery you got going on here?
Well, no, that's the thing. You ought to get these two things together. You shouldn't have to die to make a good living, but you shouldn't be dying to make a living. You should be living to make a real killing. It's all about making money while you're still alive to spend it and or enjoy it, feel it, put it in your pockets, stick your hands in your pockets. Play with the money in your pockets. You'll feel a little crazy. You go a little deeper, you'll feel a little nuts. We got to figure out a way for the people to make some money out there, Brian. You see where I'm going with this? There you go.
Is that where you're going?
There you
on
go,
your bike?
baby.
Your little bike here?
I'm just tootling down the neighborhood on the sidewalk on my bike.
Tootling.
And I'm throwing paint bombs at all the little kids with the lemonade stands because I want to ruin their business and corner the market
paint bombs.
In the lemonade business.
What's a paint bomb?
A paint bomb, that's where you take paint, you put it in a fucking plastic bag, you tie it off, and you throw it at the goddamn lemonade stand, and boom, and then they're out of business.
Well, once again, let's just say that we don't want to encourage any other adults to go around there with paint bombs.
No, but if
for lemonade stands.
If you're about the age of Leave It to Beaver, this is the thing you can get away with, kids.
Leave it to Beaver.
But here's the thing: you want to quarter the market on the lemonade stands, and then you want to buy lemonades that are only a day or two older than they're supposed to be from the store, and then you want to reduce your overhead and all these type of things. See, this is how you need help from Shopify, folks, because Shopify are professionals at this. Now, you might just go out in your front yard and open up a lemonade stand, and just come what may, people might walk by and give you money or not. You're just sitting there like a bump on a log, not selling much aid. You need some aid to sell some lemons. But if you had Shopify behind you, their marketing team, their easily created email and social media campaigns, their product descriptions, their page headlines, their product photography, their helpful AI tools that accelerate your content creation, your own design studio to build a beautiful online store so that you don't have to just sit out there in the front yard. You can have one of your other kids inside online making money some kind of way. And the lemonade market will be yours. It will be yours when you paint bomb all the other lemonade stands in the neighborhood. And then you've cornered the market on those 2-day-old lemons.
Metaphorically.
And then you're getting every kid in the neighborhood from those unemployed stands to come begging for a payoff from you. And then you've got them in your network, and they're trucking your lemonade all over town in their bicycles with the basket in the front. Ding, ding.
Listen,
there you go.
No more ding ding. Let's say that this is a metaphorical example. What we're really talking about is commerce, online commerce, and business. And who doesn't love business, especially business people? And you got products out there, the many listeners, mom and pop Cornette listener out there. You've got your products. You need to sell them, whether they are lemonades. That wouldn't work. And I can't say whether they're lemons or not, because don't sell a lemon. But you need help, and we've got a partner that's in our pocket. There he is. They're there for us. Shopify. Tell him, Jim.
Well, I'll tell you this, that, yes. Here's the thing. We don't like business people. Business people are tools of the devil. We like mom and pop that aren't related to business. And that's why you get a hold of the business people at Shopify, and you make a Faustian bargain.
And they help. They work
business
with you.
People.
They work
because then they'll help you screw the other guy.
No, there's no screwing.
So that you can get ahead
On the
before
level.
anybody else does, because it's a charity begins at home, and you need to reward the poor with money in your pocket so you won't be poor. And that's where Shopify comes in.
Ladies and gentlemen, practical examples work. Shopify powers our online store, ArcadianVanguard.com, the great t-shirts for this here show. It's going so well. The Drive Thru, and of course, Travis Heckel artwork. That store is powered by Shopify. You can find this on the Shop app. I got to tell you, we do great. You can do that too. Get your products everywhere with the Shop app, and they are a great partner. Easy sales. Everything's easy. It's great. This is a real endorsement. We really use it. You should too. Help us out. Come on.
Or if you just want to just go ahead and just turn yourselves over to the evil empire and let them fill your pockets with filthy lucre, go to shopify.com/JCE right now. You're going to get a $1 a month trial period where they hook you. They show you all the ways that you can't live without them. They'll change your standard of living. They'll get you out of that filthy hovel. They'll start having you eating solid food again that doesn't have any kind of green on it. Shopify.com/JCE, the $1 a month trial period. Everybody's got $1. Roll a wino. And once that they get you hooked here, you'll be making so much money, you'll be farting through silk, and you'll never look back or look around to see who might be behind you. Shopify.com/JCE.
The party continues. We are back here on this death tour.
How many parties do you know that are accompanied by organ music?
Well, it depends if you know where to go. You got to know the right people.
Go to the town square and listen to the calliope.
I'll take organ over.
Do the kids still enjoy a good calliope these days?
No.
Well, that's something else that's missing in their chat.
Bring it back.
We wouldn't have all these delinquents running around on the streets if there was more kids and calliopes.
All right. The philosophy of Jim Cornette. And of course, most people know him for his wrestling knowledge, not his street knowledge. And on the topic of wrestling knowledge, Jim.
Yes.
Let's return to the street known as WWE TV, whatever.
What?
I guess you watch both shows.
Just give it to me. Just give it to me. It's a safe move every time. Because what I'm talking about to you is I raised the point a few minutes ago that SummerSlam, it didn't seem like we're on edge waiting for this big mega event, because on SmackDown, just so you know, it's not like we're going to completely ignore this stuff, but we want to explain to you why we're not going to go into a lot of detail either. After the Hogan promo on SmackDown, we got Logan Paul came out. Okay, big star. Got some heat. They don't like him. He healed on Cleveland because it's one of his hometowns and his weird life. But he's got great heel delivery. He's cooking along, and suddenly here comes Jelly Roll. And Jelly Roll came out, and boy, he's been waiting all his life to cut a heel promo. And I've heard a lot worse, or not cut a heel promo, but cut a babyface promo, cut a wrestling promo. And I've heard a lot worse, but I think he has been saving all this up for, a while. He got it all out. But it's Jelly Roll. And here's Logan Paul, who's been knocking out all these top superstars. And so Roll told him off. But then here come Drew McIntyre, because Drew was yet to leave the country, where he apparently has been not allowed to return. We may talk about that later on. And now it's Drew and it's Logan Paul against old Jelly Roll. And Jelly Roll does the old babyface thing where he says, "You don't think I came alone, do you?" And he starts singing Orton's song. I hear voices in my head. They can see I sound just like that. And here comes Orton for the big reveal. He was standing on the stage 10 minutes beforehand. Everybody in the building knew he was there.
Maybe he had to go to the bathroom.
Well, he almost took a piss and left Jelly Roll to get fucking slaughtered, but instead, they have a big fight. They stopped Roll for a minute so Logan Paul could beat him up, but Orton got Drew out of the way. And Jelly Roll finished up by giving Logan Paul a Bubba Slam in the middle of the ring. And that was the highlight of the rest of the show, Brian. I don't know, do you have comments on Roll's technique before we go any further?
I thought you would have commented on the head palm shoot off. That was the first thing I noticed. That, oh, Jim's going to go crazy when he sees that.
Well, I was trying to get through with it, but said I wasn't really going to critique it like he's actually doing this for real. But yes, the head palm shoot off followed by, that were prefaced by some weak looking strikes.
See, that's the thing. We started seeing people on social media like, look, he can work. Look, he really has put in the work at the training facility. He really can do it. And I thought, like, it wasn't the worst thing ever, but it was a guy very conscious that he doesn't want to fuck up. Like, it didn't look natural. And I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I don't know why that the guys are encouraging him to just put your hand on the back of my head and I will fling myself into the ropes for you. Can't they just say, here's the way you shoot me off? I mean, I don't. But that's, so that's where it's got to, folks, in the commercialization of the modern world. And yes, I've seen DJs in matches and celebrities in matches and guys from other sports in matches and all kinds of different things. And some of it took place exactly where it belonged, which was in small venues on a localized fucking level. But this, as they say, is going to be out in front of God and everybody at SummerSlam. And when I was a kid, I had a basketball goal in the driveway, and I like to occasionally shoot a basket. Brian, did you know that about me?
I did not know.
And I had an ABA ball, the red, white, and blue ball, which is still, to me, the only basketball.
That looks so cool. Yeah.
And while I was, when were the Kentucky Colonels still in existence? What was their last season? 72. When I was 10 years old and I was out with my ABA ball shooting at my basket, I thought, well, that would be cool. But here's the thing. I was a dumpy, vertically challenged, for the most part, average height white kid that couldn't play basketball. So I didn't pursue it. And I don't know even if somebody said to me, if I became a multimillionaire famous person, could buy it or get it done for publicity or whatever. Hey, you want to play a game with the Kentucky Colonels? Even if I was young enough where I could run up and down the court without having a heart attack, I don't know if I'd want to put myself in that position. Wouldn't that be disrespectful on some level, and otherwise opening myself up for a lot of people to say, what the fuck is that fat white fuck doing on the court?
You never know. Or the opposite happens and you're the next Larry Bird.
I have a feeling there'd be a lot of birds, but I'd probably be on the receiving end of them.
Magic versus corny. Who knows how things would have worked out? Do you think you would have played well for Bobby Knight?
Well, I think we would have probably gotten along. I think Indiana, I think because they're in Indiana, maybe he had learned something from Professor Roy Shire about his talent relations. Because when I watched the documentary not long ago, he reminded me of Watts.
All right. Well, this has been the Jelly Roll Logan Paul confrontation.
The Jelly Roll Logan Paul mashup. All right. And for the rest of the damn program, 30 minutes in now, we got a girls match between Alexa Bliss and Roxanne Perez, which led into Jade Cargill versus Chelsea Green, So at 9:00, we'd had 2 tribute videos to Hogan, 2 girls matches, and a fight with Jelly Roll. Cody Rhodes did a promo. Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes. I love that song. And he did a great babyface promo, and he had fire and delivery. And the fans sang his name. And he wants the real John Cena at SummerSlam. Not this guy that's ready to leave and et cetera, et cetera. He wants him at his best. See, here's another guy who wants him at his best. I want the fucking guy I'm going to fight to crawl in like a goddamn paraplegic. But even though it's a good promo, but it's a 2-hour show to watch Cody do a good promo. The thing is, Brian, I had an epiphany when I was watching these shows. Remember the wrestling that that was easy to watch, that was 1 hour a week, and not only for the fans, it was easy to digest, but for the boys, we knew we had 2 to 3 minutes on a fucking promo to get over and make a fucking point, sell some tickets. And even if we had a goddamn main event match, you got 8 to 10 minutes maybe with entrances to get out there and have this match and get the thing done. And it was faster paced. It was more a sense of urgency. It was goddamn more exciting to watch. Am I crazy? Or is this what has happened? And now that they know we got 15 minutes for every promo and we got to go 20 with entrances and commercial breaks in the match. So what the fuck? Slow it down. Milk everything. AEW won't slow down. WWE won't speed up.
Yeah, you need something in between. If only there was a billionaire out there.
Oh, there's plenty of them now. Unfortunately, they're too busy trying to take over the world. Well, what am I saying? Trying to keep control of the world. But nevertheless, Miz was competitive with Jacob Fatu for a while before he got beat. And then taller Tonga came in with the rest of the bunch, and they just beat the shit out of Jacob. And I mean, the taller hit him with the clothesline while Solo was sitting there with the chair over his head. They had to go over and take the chair off Solo's head that Jacob had put there. But they clotheslined him and choke slammed him and spiked him. And truthfully and honestly, none of that was really as good as it sounds. Because I'm thinking this is the new Solo bloodline group of Tongas, whatever the fuck, is sort of like they've just done that because they used to have the Samoan group that was over. And now it's kind of guys. I think Jacob would stand out more if he wasn't dealing with them. Am I crazy?
No, he should be interacting with the other main eventers like Gunther, CM Punk, Braun Breaker, and like that crowd. But he's just tied in all this, and this is all he's really done since he's been there. Same thing for Solo. Everything with Solo has been around this universe. Is it like late era NWO? I don't know. But the crowd reaction here was quite telling. They weren't really reacting at all to the beatdown. And when Jacob Fatu started making his comeback, it took a few rounds for the fans to get into it. It took his shake or whatever you call that he does. So I don't know if the fans are really into it. They're into him. But you got to get him away from all of this sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And Tala Tonga, I guess he's almost 7 feet tall. I don't know. It's like he's not really that imposing.
I'm telling you, his head is way too small. He needs a bigger head. He does not have a giant's head. He's got a normal little peanut head up there on that fucking big tall body.
Do you think Giant Silva could have gone further?
Looks like a little softball.
Do you think Giant Silva could have gone further?
You know, actually, everybody's going to say, oh, he's crazy. He could have, if we'd have found him about 15 years beforehand. Because I can't remember exactly what his age was, but he was older. He had to be 40 at least when we first got him. And he started being able to do some things where you could tell that if you had a few years to hide him in a couple of small territories back and forth, whatever the fuck, you could have got something out of him if he was younger. But as it was, that was about what was going to happen. Well, the whole his presentation and the whole oddities thing didn't help anything. You could have stolen a couple of shows out of him before anybody even figured it out, but not the way that they presented him.
Again, I never thought about it before. I didn't know too much about his background in Brazil. He was born July 21st, 1963, 62 years old now. So yeah, he was already in his 30s.
There you go. Well, okay, 62 to 1990, what was that, 7? Yeah, he was 35 years old, and I mean, and that size. So it wasn't like he was Diamond Dallas Page, motivated middle-aged type of thing. But old Taller needs a bigger head, I'm just telling you. And then the main event on SmackDown was Andrade and Rey Fenix against the Wyatts, and I tuned out. And with Raw, I got to be honest with you. I cheated and read the recap because of the Netflix, the streaming business. I hate it. And besides for the Hogan tribute, and I understand Jey Uso and Heyman had a lovely interview session. I'm sure it was very good with Heyman. He's a master. And I understand that Gunther and Punk had a nice long segment where they spoke to each other, and they're two of the best promos in the business. But I didn't feel the need. And again, you can't fast forward through the commercials for some length of time after the fact, apparently on Netflix. And I got stuck after the Hogan tribute on 3 minutes of baby wipe commercials or whatever. So I didn't feel the need for those two segments to try to wade through Sheamus versus Grayson Waller, Wild and Cruz against JD and Finn, a girls' 8-man tag, a 6-person tag with girls and guys. And that was what the middle of the show was for almost 3 hours. And so I concentrated on the main event, Jey Uso and Bronson Reed, because that's where they finally gave you a reason to watch the show. Was I crazy, Brian?
No.
Well, I would appreciate it a more full-throated thing. Like, how in the world, Jim, could you possibly think that you might be mentally impaired?
How can you review it if you don't watch it? How could you say you'd get rid of them from your roster if you don't watch? You hate girls.
I can't review it because if I don't watch it, that's why I'm not reviewing it, because I didn't watch it. But Jey Uso and Bronson Reed, they took a step forward in something that we've been obviously calling for some time and also predicting they were going to do from the way that things were looking. They're elevating Heyman's young guys in Seth Rollins' absence, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. They're elevating both of them, but they're elevating Braun as the guy, and they're elevating Reed as the main henchman, just with subtle positioning, but that's exactly what they should be doing. You don't want to get both these guys over for the exact same position in the same way, because then you don't get either. But clearly, Breaker is the star of the thing. And they had a nice match. As I said, there was an element of, the thing is, they got to fill a lot of time on this show, so nobody's in a hurry. And then they got to get out of the match. Jay makes a comeback, hits a dive on Reed on the floor, and Braun Breaker comes down the aisle and hits him with a spear. Disqualification. Boom. Because it's the angle. That's what they're concentrating on. And they started, and it didn't start promising when they got a little weak heat on Uso, but then Roman's music hits. And Roman, here's the thing. If they're going to play music for a guy to come out he can't walk out if his fucking, what's Jay relation, his cousin, whatever is, he's down. Now the heels are supposed to just stop and stand there slack jawed. Well, Braun Breaker said, fuck that. I'm still kicking this fucking guy. And Roman Reigns is just walking. This is what I'm saying. All these angles need to be treated with more urgency. But nevertheless, Roman makes comeback, clears the ring, helps Jay up. They nail the heels off the apron. They go to run around the ring to double spear the heels, and they get speared instead. And then they just destroyed the baby faces. Braun speared Uso and Reed splashed him, and then Braun clotheslined Roman over the desk and tossed him back in the ring, and they splashed Roman, and Braun trash talked him. And then, as they had kicked him out of the ring, Braun ran around and speared both of the baby faces through the barricade at the same time.
How about that? That's a hell of a statement.
Yes. And one of those guys is Roman Reigns, who is a pretty big fucking deal. And then Reed stole Roman's tennis shoes, which was a nice touch. And, but the point is they need to elevate the young guys, and they're doing that. And these are the right guys to do it. And Heyman being with them gives them more credibility. The only thing I didn't like about this, because they're doing exactly what they should, but it's so modern wrestling that nobody's trying to stop them. And there's no sense of urgency. They do the thing they're going to do back and forth, and then the heels just take their time. It's not like they're getting away with a crime, or they're, do you see what I'm saying? It's so sports entertainment, it distracts me that they want their fans to accept it as, it's always been this way, which I guess now they do. It's been so long. But goddamn, somebody would be trying to help these people. And there's ways around that where you can still do all this shit. We all always did. They just must think it's a distraction, when to me it's a distraction that tells me, well, nobody gives a shit, or this is supposed to happen. Am I just the odd duck, Brian?
I don't know. You may be the odd duck in terms of it not happening, but these are all things that should be considered and probably should be applied. Or you can have the other attitude with, it's wrestling, it doesn't matter, who cares, we just move on. What do you think? I mean, the way they built up Braun here specifically. Braun. The other one's Bronson. I'm sorry, I got a little confused for a second in my own head here.
Well, and that's a thing they might need to address.
The way they're building him up, the way they built him up here, to any argument that Seth Rollins isn't as badly hurt and he'll cash in soon, it would almost negate some of this stuff, because I feel like they've really done a good job of finally getting him away from the pack a little bit, even though he's in the pack.
Well, yeah, again, that's the thing, is we'll find out at SummerSlam, but I don't believe that Seth Rollins is going to be showing up, turning any cartwheels and doing any cash-ins or anything. And, cheerio if they fool me. But it seems like an odd thing at this point that would just stick out somehow.
Okay. Do you think Braun Breaker will cash in?
No, I don't think they're going to do that yet. I don't know that they, by that, I mean, have a Paul just here. Paul giving Braun Breaker the case. I don't think they'll do it yet, but I think there's more chance of that happening than there is of Seth showing up and doing it. How about that? How about them apples?
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Well, and we both got apples, and we don't have to worry about those pesky kids with their lemonade stand. We can sell apples on the street corner.
Let's get away from this analogy, whatever you and this stand that you want to have out there for the kids.
Well, it's a stand-like structure. I had one when I was 9. It's a long way down there to the road, and traffic was nothing like what it is now back then. So Me and a little girl that lived next door, we made 25 cents and called it a day after about 4 hours.
All right, well, it's time to take a stand, and that is to say that was Raw.
Yeah.
And Jim, on the topic of WWE, and they've got a lot of lemonade stands set up for this weekend, SummerSlam, 2 nights, August 2nd and August 3rd, at MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey. Beautiful, tropical East Rutherford will be hosting this.
I've been told that was named after Rutherford B. Hayes. Is that correct?
Who told you that?
Well, when I was up there last, somebody said, it was named after Rutherford B. Hayes, the 12th president, wasn't he? Or was he the 19th? I forget.
It may be. I actually don't know. I don't know. You know who Edison, New Jersey is named after?
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly do. Edison fucking McKenzie. He was that Irish guy that pioneered the thing back in the 1600s.
Well, Jim, let's go to this lineup. This is from what's on Wikipedia.
Oh, boy.
These are the matches. Night 1, August 2nd, Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross with Scarlett.
Oh, geez. Zayn can make almost anything watchable in the ring. I know a bunch of people have been saying, but now Kross is great because he's cutting the promos together. What I do that. Well, you know what? But we've got to watch. You know why, Brian? Remember, we got to put the bump meter, put the clicker on the bumps.
If we're doing that, I feel like based on the fact you did it previously and you are an expert, you should predict right now how many bumps he'll take.
Well, what was it? Last time the total was 8, but we worked it out to where about 5 of them were of the Ox Baker variety, where he went down, but there was no chance of potentially anything going awry. So let's say he's good. It's SummerSlam. He's got something to prove. He's going to take 5 solid bumps. 5 solid bumps in the match.
I'm going to go with 9.
Ooh.
It's SummerSlam, like you said, and I think we'll debate what's a solid bump and what isn't, but I'm going to say 9 bumps. Let's see what happens. Jim, in a tag team match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship, the Judgment Day, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez, the champions, versus a team I don't think you've really seen, but they've actually really gotten over big with the fans, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair.
Well, son of a gun. Old Charlotte's back in town. This has been the past couple of weeks when I've had my attention diverted, right? Is that now they like Charlotte again, suddenly. So who are the favorites here? Are they going to put the Bliss Flair connection over, or are they going to be turned away by the heels?
You're asking me?
Well, I'm saying, is there any smart money on this? What's the over and under? What's the vector, Victor?
Well, let me ask it this way. If Liv Morgan's going to be out for a considerable bit of time more, and again, she separated her shoulder, do you want to keep the belts on them because of the story that is there, or are they not even needed for the idea that Roxanne has just replaced Liv? And Liv would be mad about that. And she's trying to steal Liv's boyfriend and everything.
That's a very interesting question, and I think that I would answer that if I gave a shit. But right now, I really don't give two flying French fried titty fucks what they do with the women's tag team title there. But Charlotte and Alexa, that's the long and the short of it. I'll take them.
Jim, a tag team bout, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed with Paul Heyman.
The heels need to win because this is the, elevation process of these two young guys for the future that are going to be on the top level. And the cheap way to do it would be beat Jay, but I think since Heyman's involved, they'll figure out some way for Breaker to beat Roman, because that's what I'd do if I were me, and Heyman's almost as smart as me, so he'd probably do it too if he were him, because he's Heyman.
Well, Jim, our next contest for the WWE Women's Championship, the champion Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill.
Ooh.
I'm intrigued to see what this will be.
Yeah, there you go. Because Tiffy has been very popular. Even, she's one of the people where her gimmick was supposed to be heelish and annoying in nature, and it was so endearingly so, apparently, to some segment of the population that they started liking her. But point being, Jade don't do a lot of jobs, but Jade is also not that experienced, and neither is Tiffy when it comes down to it. So what you're saying, Brian, is that you are interested in this because this needs to be fairly brief. I'm not talking 3 minutes or whatever. They're not going to go 20. And it needs to be heavily discussed beforehand. And there is a potential that at some point something could go sideways, is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is I think Tiffany Stratton's really good. And I think Jade needs the right person to be in the right spot. Jade needs to be like presented almost like the Ultimate Warrior or something. Like it just, if she's not, she gets exposed.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe they'll surprise us. But I'm intrigued.
Well, and that's the thing. And I'm not saying that Tiffy isn't, any good, but at her level of experience or anybody's level of experience, just about, you not only have to be good for you, but you have to be good sometimes for the other person. And that's where they got to watch out for putting Jade with anybody. But we shall see. Now, who's going to win this thing? Will they put Jade over Tiffy? Can that happen, Brian? I'll be upset. How can you treat Tiffy this way?
It only works if Tiffy gets screwed over by someone else. And Jade losing could work if Jade gets screwed over by someone else. I don't know.
Well, who's going to screw these girls? That's the question I'm asking. Who is going to screw either one of these girls?
I don't know. Nia Jax is not on the card. I don't know. I'm not going to answer who's going to screw anyone.
Well, somebody's going to need to screw somebody.
Listen, let's screw
one of these
here.
girls.
Jim, the continuation of our preview of night one of SummerSlam. Randy Orton and Jelly Roll versus Drew McIntyre, maybe, and Logan Paul.
Well, do we need to first discuss where in the world is Drew McIntyre? We need to have a plan A and a plan B. First, we have to let the people in on where he is and what might be happening with him, do we not?
It was certainly going to be a topic here on the show. I didn't know if we were going to do it right now or later.
Well, we can't put the horse before Drew, can we?
Well, we can. I think that's exactly what's happening right now. But let's get back to Drew, and you can explain how he got drawn into this situation.
Well, no, he's not drawn into anything now. He's actually in it.
Explain what he's done.
Apparently, Drew McIntyre, after SmackDown, I presume, left the country to go to the UK for a friend of his wedding, and then tried to come back, and they wouldn't let him on the fucking plane. Because the description, and he's doing promos about it, like said, Jelly Roll's using his pull, trying to block me out of the country or whatever. See, I sound just like Drew. But apparently he had his UK passport, but they wanted his US passport. And he even said the guy that wouldn't let him on the plane knew who he was and still said no. How, Brian? If you know, how does that work? Yes, he's got to have a UK passport because he's, I guess, still a UK citizen, right? But he's been working in this country for so long with obviously all the documentation and all the paperwork. And he's on national goddamn television once or twice a week. So it's not a secret he's here. It's not been a wrestling promoter thing where they're trying to get out of paying some kind of fucking tax or doing paperwork or whatever. So why would they not let him on the fucking plane?
I really don't know. It is an interesting thing. You know, the jelly roll excuse he gave, it would all work a lot better if Drew was a babyface. And you could say the dastardly heel was trying to keep me away from this big match.
Yeah.
As opposed to the heel saying, yeah, that babyface you all like, he's the reason I can't get into the country. That really doesn't...
That country music guy that used to be a fucking inmate has big connections with but nevertheless... Well, he met a lot of people in law enforcement, from what I understand. But Drew McIntyre has been doing this, traveling internationally at a high level for a long time. So it's not like that he doesn't know how this works or he's just some tourist. And he had said that he never had any problem with this before. But have they changed some regulation or whatever, or what the fuck? But apparently the WWE office is having to work on. But then again, if he didn't have the right passport, okay, in one day you can fucking overnight a goddamn maybe 2 days for whatever part of the UK he's in. So
you can pay enough to get it there overnight. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. There's got to be some other fucking issue going on, or maybe he's exaggerating for the sake of. But he was denied entry, denied boarding or whatever to come back to the United States. Like he could potentially be some terrorist masquerading as somebody.
You know, considering how many international wrestlers there are right now, and now there's a deal with AAA, so we're going to have more wrestlers coming from Mexico. There are so many wrestlers from Australia, the UK, all over Europe, Gunther. That'd be an interesting gimmick for a heel. Like the guy who steals everyone's passports. The guy who, like, when guys wrestle, the only thing he's going for is their passports, so they're stranded. I like it.
Hey, but that's the thing is, without showing proof that you have a contract with some company that's doing business legitimately in the United States, you can't get a permit to work as a wrestler in the United States. So the vast majority of those guys on indies years ago that were coming back and forth were just driving across or flying through and say, oh yeah, I'm going to fucking Lollapalooza or whatever the fuck. And remember one time Davey Richards, we had to fucking call him from the Ring of Honor office, say, dumb shit, take down your goddamn Twitter or whatever it was then, his post on social media. He was trying to put Kyle O'Reilly over as what a dedicated hard worker he was. And one of the comments was, he's come back and forth illegally into the country over and over again to pursue his craft. He didn't have any papers then, right at that second. We had to get Delirious is on the phone with him. Dumb shit. Take that down. Anyway, back to what's Drew doing at SummerSlam, maybe?
Well, once again, going back to this, Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam teaming up with Logan Paul, maybe, against Jelly Roll and Randy Orton.
Teaming up with Logan Paul, maybe. Call me, baby. I mean, I hate to say it, but if they've gone this far, Jelly Roll's going to get the fucking pin over somebody, unless just he refuses and is allowed to just in some type of potentially inoffensive way save the day for Randy so he can hit an RKO and then Jelly can get on top or whatever or something. But I don't think they're going for a riot here on a heel fuck on the finish. Do you? And it's going to be Logan Paul because he's the kind of heel that can take it.
Do you think he's going to use some of the traditional big man, fat man, kind of like hold the guy in the corner with his belly or a splash?
I don't know. I'm waiting to see if they do him like the McGuire twins and take the bottom rope off so he can roll into the ring underneath the rope.
Like, should he do a belly bump? If you have a guy that big, do you want him doing that spot? Does it make sense?
You've almost got to. Well, now see, that's the thing is he's not as big as he used to be. And so that they should have caught him when he weighed 500 because then he could have just studied Big Daddy's greatest hits and and done that. But now he's only, 325 or whatever he may be. Well, fuck, that's neither here nor there. Drew can slam him if he wants to. Well, so can Logan Paul. So he should have started a couple weeks ago eating cheeseburgers and milkshakes. Get back up to at least 4, for heaven's sake.
Well, let's get back to we're almost done. You have a prediction?
He could have his lower belly removed later on surgically.
We still haven't gotten past night 1. Finally, Jim, the main event of night 1 of SummerSlam. For the World's Heavyweight Championship, the champion Gunther versus CM Punk.
I'm looking forward to the match. I bet you it's good. It's not only it's going to be logical and sensible and lyrical, sort of like Supertramp, but also those two guys are creative and they know what they're doing. So it's going to be a great match. As to calling the finish, I don't see Gunther losing, but Punk, should have some type of legitimate out, bitch, gripe, whatever the kids are calling it these days, where you can point to, if that hadn't happened, Smithers. But I think Gunther will retain.
Well, there it is, night 1 of SummerSlam 2025. We'll get to night 2 in a second. Jim, we probably didn't expect night 1 to go as long as it did. Maybe we would want to, at other times, take a break and just sit back and relax. Just think about what we just recorded, what we just did. But we can't do that. We have to keep going. But later on after the show, maybe we could sit back and relax and think about what we just recorded with our fine products from our fine friends at Cornbread Hemp.
I feel like I've got an echo going here. But I'll tell you what, talk about sitting down and relaxing. Talking about sitting down and relaxing, you can't relax anymore. In this hurry-scurry world, Brian, there's always something going on. People are dropping over graveyard dead. People are being outed as Russian agents. People are being shot off into rockets to the moon and the stars. We don't know what's going on with it. You're just holding your hands over your head every day, taking shelter within yourself because of the stress. You might have aches and discomforts from age or exertion, or it might just be about your mental wellness where you're just thinking, look at the fuck world I live in. What the fuck is the matter with people? Now that's where it's going to catch up with you, Brian, because if you think that long enough, and if you live in this world, you will, well, that'll just run you bug-eyed crazy. So you need something for peace of mind. Something to bring you down and level you out. Take away the stress, the discomfort, promoting a little relaxation. That sounds good, doesn't it? You see the tone of my voice comes down into a soothing baritone? That's because the soothing baritone you can inject right into your mind is the Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies that are made to help you feel better, whether it's the stress or the discomfort or the relaxation. Boom! They're going to hit you like a big old sunflower right in the face in an August breeze. They only use the best part of the hemp plant, the flower. That's why it's like a flower. It's a hemp flower. You're going to get slapped right in the face with it. Then you're going to love it because the hemp flower will slap you in the face with the purest and most potent CBD, formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. You take one of these gummies, boom, you're going to go to sleep. Boom, you're not going to be stressed. You're going to be like a limp rubber band, like a noodle, like something that's been boiled in water and just has no shape, like a whale with no bone structure. You'll just melt into the bed or the carpet or the floor or the road or wherever you're at. I guess there's no way you're disagreeing with me about any of this.
Metaphorically speaking, I think it all is reasonable so far. Metaphorically speaking.
Okay. Well, you don't have to take 4, just take 1. And all the products are third-party lab tested, so the discomfort's going to melt away. It's going to be called comfort instead of discomfort. They're going to take the dis out. You're not going to be dissed by discomfort. And they're certified USDA organic. So they're good for your organs. They're very organically oriented. Your kidney, your spleen. The spleen is an overlooked organ that is necessary for some reason. I don't know why. But folks, once again, the Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies are going to make you feel so much better, and we can save you so much money. Because right now, if you go to Cornbread Hemp, that's CORN as in corn, BREAD as in bread, and hemp as in HEMP. Cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout. You're going to get 30% off your first order of these fine. I'm telling you, no fillers, no junk. You know, many of the leading CBD gummy manufacturers put sawdust in their formula because that helps spread things out.
We don't know that, and we shouldn't alarm the public with things that I don't know where the hell you're getting this information.
Well, I saw it on the internet.
You saw it on the internet.
And I saw it, and also children's play sand. They're making gummies with some of that too. That's why you get such a dry mouth after some of these off-brand gummies. But
Ladies
Cornbread Hemp, no fillers, no junk.
No.
Just full spectrum goodness. They're on the spectrum 24/7.
Again, I don't know what exactly, the way you're presenting things may not be coming out the way you hope they are, but Cornbread Hemp are great products. Of course, Suzanne, a big fan here in this household. I can't even get my hands on the Cornbread Hemp when it gets here because she steals it all. I love Cornbread Hemp too.
Oh, so she's stealing the gummies, huh? I always thought you couldn't trust her.
Well, no, you could trust her, and you
look a
can
little
trust,
shady.
You know who you can trust all the time? Cornbread Hemp, the finest products, and we have a great deal for the listeners that we're going to tell everybody about. I need some right now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's tell the listeners why I need it and how they can get it, Jim.
Yes, you can relieve that stress and that fumfer mouth by going to cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout. You're going to get 30% off your very first order, and you're not going to be talking or scatting or blathering or selling like an auctioneer like Brian. You're going to be floating down the river, the figurative river, metaphorically speaking, into the jaws of pure natural CBD goodness, and there you will reside.
Once again, Cornbread Hemp, our good friends from the good place of Louisville, Kentucky. One more time,
yes,
Jim, that promo code.
And they're local hometown boys. Cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the promo code JCE. 30% off your very first by gosh order. SE CBD Cornbread. By damn.
All right, that's not their official name, but we love them here. You'll love them there. Cornbread Hemp. Jim, let's get back to the preview of SummerSlam. We have Night 2, August 3rd, coming up. The big Sunday night SummerSlam. Here is the lineup. In a 6-pack tables, ladders, and chairs match.
Oh, Christ on a cracker.
For the WWE Tag Team Championship. The Wyatt Six of Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy versus Andrade and Rey Fenix versus DIY of Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa versus Fraxium of Axiom and Nathan Frazier versus Motor City Machine Guns.
Oh, for God's...
Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin versus the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford.
You know what that tells me, Brian? That tells me that I can save 30 minutes right off the top of the bat.
Oh, come on.
SummerSlam Night 2. Oh,
there's only 6 matches. There's only 6 matches. You got to watch this. You have to.
There's 6 teams in the one match.
This is a big night for them. Everyone waits for your big multi-man SummerSlam match.
Well, he's only going to part the Red Sea 6 times. For heaven's sake, no. Ladders, tables, chairs, 12 guys, 6 teams, no DQ, lazy booking. I think not.
Well, we'll see how you feel the day of. Maybe you'll get into the spirit of it. For the WWE...
Yeah, I have a feeling I'll I'll turn to Buddhism before I'll get in that spirit.
For the WWE Intercontinental Championship, the champion Dominic Mysterio versus AJ Styles.
This one should be a fun match, as the kids say. A fun match. They're both good workers. Dom has heat. AJ's a babyface. He will know how to foil him, and at the same time, he'll sell his ass off for him. And I think Dominic has to come out on top in some nefarious fashion, but I believe that he will probably emerge victorious.
Jim, in a no disqualification, no countout, last chance match for the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship.
Oh, good Lord.
The champion Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria. If Lynch wins, Valkyria can no longer challenge for the Intercontinental title as long as Lynch is champion.
I was about to say, how about as long as any of us are still alive? Becky Lynch has to win that because at some point sanity has to prevail. And young Lyric may be a fine girl and a friend of Becky's, but there's no charisma, there's no personality, I don't know how else to say it. And on a big show like that, Becky Lynch, the bigger star, needs to win, and hopefully I'll not be watching this match. I've saved an hour.
See, you can't do that. Now you're skipping 2 matches. There's only 6 matches.
Yeah. Good. That'll give me more time to digest the ones that actually mean a fuck.
Do you think Lyra will have special wings, like big wings, for the pay-per-view, for SummerSlam, outdoors?
The only way I would like her right now is if she had chicken wings.
Jim and
if she had chicken wings and plenty of ranch, I'd like her. Otherwise, no.
Jim in a steel cage match for the United States Championship, the champion Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu.
And this has got to be Jacob, does it not? And I wish I was more amped for it because it's Jacob Fatu, but we've talked about the matches with him and these other guys. It's family, it's similar styles, it's similar weakness, but they've all got some of the same weak points also, which become more glaring when they're both doing them. It's like, is this kind of like Flair and Buddy Landel, Battle of the Nature Boys? No, that drew money. I'm not looking forward to the match. I don't think they're a good matchup. I think they ought to have different opponents for each other instead of each other, because a lot of punch, kick, headbutt, and head palm shoot off, open hand punch. They don't play to their strengths. They do the same shit. I'm droning now.
Jim in a triple threat match for the Women's World Championship, the champion Naomi versus Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley.
This I'll watch, not only because Rhea's in it, but because it's an actual main event. Naomi has been a lot more interesting as a heel than she was beforehand, which was meh. And Io Sky's in the middle of something else I'd like to see 2 young women settle amongst themselves. And it's probably going to look like the, exchange student or, delinquent child that they've adopted from the reform school. Rhea Ripley has to win, does she not? Or potentially,
Naomi's just got the belt.
Well,
She's
that's true. They need to give Rhea something big soon, but it's too quick to take the belt off Naomi. But again, at least somebody will beat Io.
You know what that means? It means Io's going to win. Finally, Jim, a street fight for the undisputed WWE Championship. The champion John Cena versus Cody Rhodes.
All right, Brian, there is September, October, November. There are 4 months left in the year. for them to do something else with John Cena than have him just retire as a heel. And we thought that would probably be what they do, is he'd run for most of the year and he'd switch back at the end. But then he said a lot of things. It would be hard to say, I was just pulling your fucking leg. But is it kind of got old already that he's the heel with the belt? Cody needs the daggum thing back from Cena. Or elsewise, I think it damages Cody after Cena's gone. So figuring that they're either going to do it here, or would they do a rematch after a street fight? Do they think they have some finish that can draw people back to see an even more severe stipulation? But Cody's got to be the one that beats Cena for this thing, or they've just shot everybody in the foot. Would you agree with that?
You know, I don't know how helpful this year has been to Cody. It feels like he's the coldest he's been since he got in there. There have been issues with the Cena heel turn, the title run. When's Hell in a Cell?
Well, I guess whenever they want it to be.
There's no set month. It's not like a September thing or anything. It's just whenever they want.
I'm sure that, somebody out there who, pays more attention than I do might tell you, but I don't know.
Then you would have 4 months or so with Cena without the belt. What's he doing? He's a heel chasing for the belt, or he just turns back babyface? And how does that help anything if that happens? It kind of makes it Bobby Ewing,
Well, but is there some fashion in which somebody...
Where's The Rock?
Well, good Lord. I'm not sure we need to go through that whole thing again. But is there somebody that could potentially try to, and again, poor Seth Rollins, but can try to interject themselves in this thing and in some way switch Cena babyface to assist Cody? But I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do past they're making a drastic mistake. I'm not saying they have to do it at SummerSlam, but if Cody's not the one that beats Cena for the belt, then they've made a mistake.
Well, that is SummerSlam Night 2. A big 2-night extravaganza. SummerSlam 89 was at the Meadowlands in East Rutherford. This will be a lot longer, a lot bigger, and so much more than that. Jim, before we move completely on, well, actually, it has nothing to do with any of this, so we're moving completely on.
Let's move completely on.
I sent you an email because a ton of listeners have sent it over. They've emailed it to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com. They tried to post it in the Facebook group of a battle royal on the water. People want to know your thoughts on it, on the concept. It's about 12 seconds. I've sent you a link for you to check out this.
Well, I appreciate you sending me this, but I've already seen it because it was all over Twitter. And if it's 12 seconds, the same thing I've seen. Apparently, it went on for longer than the video, which is only 12 seconds. But did anybody give any explanation for how this came to be a thing that was happening and why they were doing it and where? I know it's in France. But it was just like at a summer festival. There was some type of context toward having a ring out in the middle of a lake, a floating ring at that wasn't floating very well.
But it seemed that was the intention. It seemed that was the intention. You kind of wanted it to go from one side to the other, and then you'd have to run from one side to the other. See, I don't know anything about it in terms of details. People just started sending it and like, Jim's going to lose his mind about this. I'm like, I don't know, actually, if he will.
Well, yeah, there's a thing. There's people in a rowboat or some type of inflatable pontoon or whatever in the goddamn lake next to the ring. There's like 18 people on the bank of the lake or whatever, sitting in lawn chairs watching it. And there's as many wrestlers in this ring that's on spare tires and floating whatever. But when when a couple of them go too far past middle, it tips sideways and the one ring post goes all the way down to where the apron of the ring is underwater. And then they all slide that. And there's a girl in it too, now that I'm looking. I don't, and it's raining, come to think of it. Now, no wonder there's nobody there. These dumb shits are out in the rain in the lake.
Thank God it's not lightning.
What do
you think of the concept? Is there any applicable way of using this for anything legitimate?
I can see that if you had some kind of spring break thing where it was I'm not talking about kids getting together and deciding to put on a show. I'm saying if it was some hotel or resort area and they've got a big spring break thing, in our pool or our water feature, or even, next to our beach, we'll have a ring floating of some description. But this looks not only so low budget, but low rent outlaw. It just, so I could see that there could be a context where you could do something like that if you had a special attraction at a water-centric event or somewhere on the water, but just putting people out in the lake in the rain for 18 people to sit there and watch them fuck around, I don't know if that was well thought through.
All right. Does it remind you of Chilhowie Park at all?
No, because there was a lot of people. Those people would come. They were used to it. Les Thatcher said on one night, it was him and Whitey, I think it was either Don and Al Green or maybe the Wright brothers. They had 5,000 people come in a rain to sit there. They put one preliminary on and then the main event so the people could see that, and then canceled the rest of the card. The people went home happy. They had more patience than the people in France.
Okay, the Battle Royal has ended. And we are all the winners here today because we have more time, more questions, more fun here on the show, Jim. Several listeners have been sending in questions. I'll ask one for everyone. Apparently on Collision, I didn't see it. I know it's going around. AEW had a segment. I was told it was a very nice word or two from Tony Schiavone about Hulk Hogan's passing. Some fans were really upset, it seemed, or at least saying they were, that there wasn't an official AEW post, an AEW tribute, anything like that of any kind. Raw and SmackDown naturally began with Hulk Hogan tributes. TNA began Impact with a Hulk Hogan tribute. Again, Hulk Hogan worked in those places. Was AEW obligated to do more than they did? Did they just do fine? It's not really their thing. They don't need to dive in, considering the past comments about the Hogans from AEW.
Well, I mean, I was banned one time according to Jericho, but I'd like to think that if I kicked off, old Tony would mention it at least. But here's the thing now. Are you saying, because I know they just did the brief, mention by Tony Schiavone, and it was a minute or whatever the fuck. It wasn't just like, yeah, this is what happened. But did they not make like an official Twitter post or statement from AEW as a company? We're saddened to hear about the passing of Hulk Hogan or whatever, just the generic thing that everybody does. They didn't do that as a company officially?
I don't believe so. I'm going to double check that right now, but I don't believe they did.
That's, you kind of have to do that in that situation, even if it's a corporate statement. I mean, think of how many people they've passed that the WWE made a statement on and they were on the outs with them, or they had been on the other side during some type of promotional war in the past. But the thing is, with a video tribute, what could they have played? What could they show? TNA is affiliated with WWE now. WWE owns the WCW library. What would they have? Would they have gone back and showed him in Memphis? That's almost the only thing they could do, isn't it?
New Japan, but even New Japan, I don't know if they could just I mean, that's the TV. That's not the company. That old footage is not owned by New Japan now, so it would be possibly an
That's
issue.
right. It's the network.
Yeah.
That's why I've been told in the past that there was not more things done with some of that footage because the network owns it and they have somewhat grander expectations than most wrestling promotions over here would have wanted to pay for rights.
So Tony has to buy the network. It's that simple. But did AEW?
So they had 2 or 3 days to try to find some footage that they probably can't get and wouldn't be able to get the rights to. So I don't think they should have done a big video thing, but they probably should have covered their bases on social media.
Even though they had that previous tweet where, again, Tony Khan told Linda Hogan, you're banned, whatever it was, just like your husband, you're banned, which was the first time anyone heard that Hulk Hogan was banned.
Well, but it was the whole thing. They were trying to appeal to their audience that was predisposed not to like Hulk Hogan anyway. And as I said earlier in this program, then Linda opens her yap and gets heat all over the whole family. But there's a difference between, no, we don't want a guy coming to our show that he wasn't going to come to anyway. And, when he's dead, not saying, we recognize the passing of old John Henry there, whatever the fuck.
All right, Jim. Well, let's move on here with the show. This question was sent via email to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from David Croft in 96, South Carolina.
What? That is a town. That's right. 96 written out, not the number.
That's
right?
a real town? Really?
Yes, I believe it is.
With a few exceptions, I generally dislike it when a wrestler wears some form of denim jeans, leather or biker pants, baggy athletic wear, or what have you as their ring gear for regular matches. I find it to come off as unprofessional and bush league. Also, in my mind, it also weakens the presentation as a legitimate sport. My question for you, what is your opinion on non-tights leg wear in professional wrestling? Do you know the time frame of when it became acceptable in mainstream wrestling to wear non-tights for regular matches? Did sports commissions have a say on ring gear for wrestling?
Well, believe it or not, it has not been unheard of in the distant past for there actually to be athletic commission rules as far as, guys and girls had to wear certain, types of things in order to cover up or whatever. But for this purpose of this exercise, it started being a thing along with 90s indie wrestling and then ECW, grungy. And also because a lot of the guys on the Outlaws couldn't afford fucking tights to begin with. And everybody's look was supposed to be, he's whatever the fuck what were they? They were all in the 90s. All the guys were disgruntled and, alienated from society. And what it looks like then is, as the caller describes, is a bunch of outlaw, indie, low budget goofs. Now, there's a reason for all of those things to be worn. Blue jeans, if it's a street fight or a bunkhouse match, well, then there you go. It's explained. You're coming dressed for a street fight. Or if it's a guy's gimmick, there's been guys that carried off leather pants. If it's a guy's gimmick and part of a slick looking presentation, there's reasons that you can, get away with wearing different types of fucking, if it's an impromptu match where guys are jumping in the ring from an interview and they're still in their street clothes, that used to add an element of immediacy to it. But when guys just repeatedly over and over come out on indie shows or whatever with Zubaz and fucking baggy t-shirts because they think it's all about the performance, well, you look like shit. And it makes the show look like shit. And the other people on it who are at least trying, there's an element of shit on them too.
Okay, well, that was the question about wrestlers and pants. Pants apparently with shit on it.
With shit on them.
Well, I think it's time now we move on to another question here, Jim. This one, Jim, was sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group by Harish Subramanian.
Oh, come on now.
Off topic, has Jim ever been to India?
That certainly departs from the normal topics that we discuss here on the program. I would think that if the fellow was a longtime listener there, he would probably have known the answer to that question, because I think I talked for weeks and weeks before I took my 2 trips to the United Kingdom, and afterwards, weeks and weeks, about how I'd never been. That's why I didn't know about the Drew McIntyre stuff, how that worked. I was Xanaxed when I entered and left the United Kingdom because I was coming off of and about to be on a plane. And that was twice in my life, and that's the only time I've ever used a fucking passport, and I no longer have an active one and don't need one. And I've never been to any other place that required me to have one. Because when I used to go to Canada, not like that'll ever happen again, all you needed was your driver's license. So I ain't been to India.
But let's say you had your passport handy and travel was a lot easier. It's a new time. I don't know how it would work. Some sort of total recall kind of situation.
Is there a transporter tube where I could just be beamed to India?
Is India where you would go? Do you think you would enjoy visiting and traveling to the land of India?
Well, hold on now. Is India where you'd rather go? That means I've got a choice. And if we're working down the list, then that means I would have to do some research to find out if there's any place on the world, on the globe, that I would go after India. Because not to, again, inflame the sentiments of the questioner, but wasn't that where that the guys went when William Regal got that intestinal thing that almost killed him?
What was it? I'd like to know what it was, because I watch all these videos that pop up on Facebook whenever I go there of, like, I think it's India. Some of it's India, like just street food. And it all looks delicious, except for how they make it with their hands, which are never washed. There are no gloves. They're just grabbing stuff. There's flies.
Well, no, but besides that, did
he eat street food? That's my question.
Well, no, but again, no. While I was there in the office
in India. Oh
no, while I was there in the office in the WWF, that's where they had the tour, and I remember him being reported as sick. But also, there's guidelines for some countries, and I'm not trying to. If it's not India, then I'll be more than happy to correct myself if somebody smartens me up. But there are some of the countries where they say, don't open your mouth in the shower. Don't drink anything but bottled water. Don't have ice in a goddamn drink. I mean, what the fuck? I don't want to go to those places. Wherever they may be, that they say, that everything may be poisonous or give you a long-lasting fucking virulent illness. Thank you very much. I'll stay here in Kentucky and fight the deer ticks.
All right, Jim, our next question here was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Randy Barrett, Stafford, Virginia. Mr. Cornette, I have a quick question for you. A coworker of mine is a huge wrestling fan who attended Gardner Webb in the 1980s. He mentioned a time when you and the Midnight Express wrestled there in late 84 or early 85. He was a pretty big guy, sitting up in the front row, and remembers jaw-jacking back and forth with you. He said you took the wind out of his sails when you announced to the crowd that you'd seen bigger arms on a chair. Rich was 6'2" and 275 pounds or so at the time. So I was wondering if you remember this interaction with this big man. He also mentioned that he talked to the security guard a day or so later and was told that you had been watching from the back because he was so vocal yelling at the wrestlers. You supposedly asked if he would be any trouble, and the security guard said no, he's just a big wrestling fan. That was before you and the Express went out and immediately zoomed in on him and gave him a lot of shit. The guard gave him a Crockett business card that you left for him. He still laughs about the good time he had going back and forth with you. Does any of this ring a bell? Thanks for all you've done for wrestling. God bless you and your family.
And God bless you and your family, sir. So it just happens that old, what was this fellow's name that's writing in from Virginia?
This is Randy Barrett, Stafford,
Randy.
Virginia, but obviously the person in the story is not Randy. It's
well,
Rich.
yes, but Randy was not present when all these things happened at Gardner Webb College. At Gardner Webb, by the way, is a college that I'm trying to remember. You could maybe Google it, Brian, but it's somewhere in the Charlotte area, either North Carolina or South Carolina. Gardner. It's one of the colleges that has a small gym that we used to do spot shows and TV tapings around the Charlotte area.
It is a private Christian university in Boiling Springs, North Carolina.
Boiling Springs. That's Gardner Webb. There's promos with Tony Schiavone in front of the orange background at Crockett's office talking about Gardner Webb. So Gardner Webb exists. Now, as for the rest of the story, it's a fucking horse shit. I hope, Rich, maybe Rich is dead, so that way he won't suffer the indignity of, no. Number one thing, bigger arms than on a chair has never been in my fucking repertoire of witty repartee and snappy comebacks. I don't remember. I remember a lot of big guys in the front row of all these towns, but I never left a Crockett business card for anybody because I never had any. I didn't have my own business card. If I was watching from the back, it was because we were bored in the locker room because there was nothing to fucking do and we were watching the matches. I wasn't paying attention to the big fellow that was 6'2", 275, because Lord knows there was nobody in the locker room for Crockett at that point, anywhere near that size. But what it was this fan went to the matches, and instead of telling his friend from Virginia, I sat there in the front row and watched everything, he, as was the common in those days, was trying to make himself more the center of attention, the center of the story. He caused some stir. Look at me, pal. You should have been there. You missed all kinds of stuff. I'll tell you what you missed because you weren't there. You see what I'm saying, Brian?
Why would you leave a business card? Like, hey, kid, you did great. Call the office. Like, why would you?
That's sad to say. Yeah, he left me a business card like, hey, you ought to be a wrestler like us. You look at you. That's what a lot of guys in those days would go to the matches and they'd go back and tell their friends that they made some type of impression on somebody for doing something. They know not to mess with me down there. That's just what they did.
All the stories you talk about with like riots or even just fan interactions, with the towns that you were going to regularly, in I guess primarily Mid-South or actually Mid-South, Crockett, or Smoky Mountain, forget about like, I knew this instance, there would be a lot of heat. Were there certain fans that you knew because you saw them regularly, like, that's the fan, that's the trouble fan, that's the fan?
No.
Or were they gone usually quickly?
No, because, for one thing, that they didn't last long enough, but no, the people that you saw every week, and of course there were still some, old ladies that would get carried away and whack you with the purse or throw a cup at you or whatever, but the people you saw every week were not going to cause the trouble. The people that hit the ring or the people that got overly into things, try to get you on the way back or whatever, they were the ones that just came. They probably weren't sitting ringside. They probably were general admission, but they got closer to the ring when shit started happening, or they just, he's there every once in a while. He wants to get drunk and watch the matches, and he lost control of himself. The regulars not only, I won't say they had all figured it out, but they'd seen enough that it took more to get them really pissed off. And they didn't want to fuck things up because that was their thing they did every week or every 2 weeks or every show or whatever. But now, having said that, one night at the Gardens, the way that we originally got front row tickets before Teeny had started, just letting us in. We were me and my mom, part of the show at that point. This lady that had 4 front row tickets reserved, because that's in those days, the first 3 or 4 rows was all reserved. Same people got them every week. Well, a couple of the people that came with her moved out of town or whatever. And she said, "Hey, would y'all like these?" "Okay, we'll take them." Well, this woman, she'd known Fargo for years. She used to bring him bottles of whiskey as a present every now and then or whatever. She'd been sitting there all this time, and she was fairly smart she didn't know anything about Booker or booking or whatever, but she knew somehow they were not trying to kill each other. She brings her son-in-law one time. He's sitting front row. By the end of the night, the last match, I'm taking pictures. Guess who shot past me under the ropes, get in the ring, get the shit kicked out of him? Her fucking son-in-law. I said, "What the fuck is that?" And she's trying to grab him, hold him back. They beat the shit out of him, tossed him back. He never came with her again.
That's an interesting thought, though. Like, how many fans who hit the ring or try to attack the wrestlers on their way, coming and going, are regulars versus people who came as a one-off?
These people, I'm not saying they never came. A lot of people went to wrestling, what now would be termed as constantly. Back then, if it was a weekly town and you went 15 times a year, you were only going a little bit more than 25%. But they were generally, again, the ones that are sitting up in the stands, milling around, a little bit too much to drink. Most of the ringsiders, but even then, one night in Lawton, Oklahoma, the guy in the front row who picked up the fucking chair. We're going to come after me in the midnight when we were leaving the ring from the Fantastics, and Bobby grabbed a chair, and 15 other people in the same section of ringside picked up a chair. So Bobby put the chair down, and everybody else put their chairs down. And they just beat the shit out of us hand to hand on the way back.
All right, Jim.
What was the question?
The question was about Rich, who was a big fan.
Well, fuck Rich. Fuck Rich. He's a big bullshitter.
Well, I'm sure he meant well, and I'm sure he was really proud of that story. Thank you for sending your email.
and if he's gonna lie about me, give me better material. Seen bigger arms on a chair.
All right, Jim, let's talk briefly about some recent retro figures that have come out from various toy lines, including WWE's Mattel deal.
Well, I was about to say, are the companies, while they last, since WWE's trying to run them out of business too.
Well, here's one, and I believe I heard he may have signed a new WWE Legends deal, or his family may have, but before that, at least this deal was done. From a new company, TRT, Title Run Toys. This is a Paul Orndorff Hasbro-style figure, and it's so that he's doing the double bicep pose, but you could also sit down almost to pile drive someone. What are your thoughts? And the finishing move here is the devastating driver.
Comes with its own optional hemorrhoid.
You surprised there aren't too many Paul Orndorff figures. It's about to change, but there haven't been too many Paul Orndorff figures throughout the years. There was the original LJN, and then there was a big gap.
Well, and that's, we were talking about this off air the other day, and that a lot of these, smaller companies are making smaller runs, but I assume they're going through the families and getting rights and et cetera. But it's a chance, or it's been a chance for not only people to have figures of guys like Orndorff that hadn't been done to death, but also family makes a little money. But now suddenly, as you said, the WWE's just releasing all kinds of shit, and they're doing it for half the price, as you mentioned earlier in the show, on some of these things. And I hope it works out, but it's sort of like that. Who are the Powertrain, Powerhouse, who are these people? Power Town.
Oh, Power Town, yeah.
That group, and they tried to get me and the Midnight involved, and we didn't, for the simple reason that you can either be in the figure business, it seems to me, you can either be in the WWE system and you might make X cents off of each figure that are sold, but the theory is hopefully they'll sell just a bloody million of them. Or you can do it yourself or do it on a limited basis through one of these smaller companies and, maybe not sell a lot of figures, but the talent might get more per figure. But the Power Town type of people, you're in the middle there where, and that's why I talked about when the Midnight Express figures that are available at JimCornette.com came out, that we were eliminating the middleman and going directly to the consumer, and the boys were getting the money. And by the way, again, Stan Lane, Dennis Condrey, and Bobby Eaton's kids, thank everybody that has bought the Midnight Express figures. And there's some still available, JimCornette.com. But that's the problem, is you either take a deal with one of the bigger companies, and Jesus Christ, if they're selling these things for 25, I think Power Town, you know better than I do, was it 30?
Oh, it was a little bit more than that. Yeah.
35, whatever. Where's the money for the talent when you've got all these people in the middle? You got manufacturing, you've got putting it in stores and percentages being taken and et cetera. And with the WWE trying to crowd the smaller companies out, then are these guys really going to make any money, or is it just more gross revenue for the WWE, is what I'm saying to you.
Well, I think it's a couple things there. In terms of like the specific figure I'm talking about here, the brand new Title Run Toys Paul Orndorff, I really like it. It's
yes,
cool.
Back to that.
But in terms of like this,
they're trying to do something for the love of the game here. The smaller manufacturers, the mom and pop stores, getting the forgotten talent.
Well,
a little boost.
My point was going to be, this is a really cool figure. And so far, WWE and their Mattel deal have not figured out how to get the retro Hasbro feel at all. It's the biggest disappointment maybe in all the figures they do. They just don't get it. They're not really what collectors want, but they got Paul Orndorff coming out in a Piper's Pit set that's coming out pretty soon. So now they're working with Paul Orndorff.
Or Piper's Pet shit.
A lot of the guys that you see like, oh, they're going to have a new Hasbro retro from one of the companies or something. The next thing you know, like, oh, that exact figure is now going to be coming out from WWE. And that's going to be an issue. With Power Town, I could say, because I've seen what they've offered and I know what they were trying to do. It didn't seem like a mechanism to make money for wrestlers.
Well, because
it was also based off pre-orders. So it's not even like, I guess they ended up having inventory, but the plan, it wasn't like, and you'll get all these units and you could use your powerful shop app and sell them. It didn't seem like a way for wrestlers to make money. And as we're speaking right now, I know a lot of people who pre-ordered their stuff, myself included. It has not come. There have been no updates. We have no idea what's happening, and it's not a surprise. But a lot of the people they announced that are coming out in their next line, same exact people. WWE's putting out like almost the exact same figure.
I think we ought to just start announcing, Brian, that you and I are making a bunch of figures of whoever we want to make some money for.
Ooh.
And then the WWE will run and jump on top of that, and we can take 10% on the back end.
Well, Jim, let me ask you about this next one. Let's give WWE's figures a mention here. Let me grab this. This is one, I gotta say, this is like where they're marketing toys to me. From the WWE Legends line, Series 27, the Elite Collection, it says, Terry Funk, Bash 89 Terry Funk. In the blue and white stripes with the black trunks over it. Middle-aged and crazy. My favorite version, maybe, of Terry Funk.
Is there a branding iron?
There's a branding iron. He's got the hat. He's got the entire thing. And there's a chase, which is like the short print that everyone has to find a way to get. of the I Quit match, Terry Funk. So 1989 Terry Funk. Again, who's the market for this? Kids or me?
Yeah. It's the same thing, actually. But yes, that's, again, for people your age, maybe close in on my age, it's been 35 years ago or whatever, fond memories. Those variants, the Raw debut variant of me or the Bloody variant were some of my biggest sellers on the action figures. People like the specific time periods.
What did you think of that look for Terry? Because you had always seen him whenever he came into Memphis. I believe every time he was wearing his trunks. Just like he did when he was the NWA champion, just like he did throughout the 70s, just like he did in Japan.
Well, yeah, but now he's a 45-year-old man. Sometimes your legs, turn on you at that point. He didn't want to.
I'm not complaining. I'm asking, what did you think of that look? Because, again, it was a very interesting. The pants didn't match the trunks, but it all worked together. It worked, though, and it became the Terry Funk look. But what did you think when you first saw it?
That was what I think he had just gotten those not long before he came to work dates for me in Smoky Mountain, because that's how he showed up. But again, he kept changing, because remember, he was more of in the 70s, even when he wasn't the world champion, he was the blonde haired cowboy with the hat and the goatee. But then in the 80s, he had the curly hair and the kind of scruffy beard, because he was more Roadhouse. And then toward the 90s, he was covering up the legs because he had dropped a little weight also from the 80s days. He needed for mobility, so his legs looked a little skinnier. So he not only covered them up, but he had the weird stripiness, so that would make him look bigger. It was all Terry.
All right, Jim, one final round here from Hastel Toys and their gimmicks and grapplers and gimmicks. I get it wrong every time. There are several figures here. They have put out a Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson Brainbusters retro Hasbro figure. Again, if you're someone who was there when these toys first came out in 1990, it was really everyone that was a big star in 89, but there were several people not there, including the Brainbusters, so they finally get a Hasbro-style figure.
Yeah, because they only were there for the 1 year, so they didn't have time to get in the production pipeline. But here's the thing with Tully had the robes when he was a single, and with JJ or with Baby Doll, the robes and the different things. Arn just always wore a windbreaker. So wouldn't you just be able to take a Tully figure and just put a windbreaker on it and it'd be the Brainbusters?
Unfortunately, these don't come with windbreakers. A lot of the toys coming out now, they come with soft goods. There are toys coming apparently any day now from England, from Epic Toys. They have Ric Flair in the green robe. It's a real robe. Like Barry Windham, like 88 Barry Windham is a heel with a claw hand. Steve Williams in his robe. So some people are doing soft goods.
Well, what about if you just went to Walmart and got the smallest child sizes of windbreakers
for the real Tully or for the figure?
Well, either one. That's the same thing both ways.
All right.
I jest. Tully and I always jousted.
What did you think of the name the Brainbusters for them? Obviously, they needed something just because that's what Vince did back then. Every tag team had a name if they were serious tag teams in WWE or WWF at the time. What did you think of the name for them?
Hated it. The Brainbusters. What the fuck? I never thought of an alternate because it was never something that I was tasked with doing, but goddamn, one would have thought. And, as good as they were, and with Heenan, could have come up with the Brainbusters sounded like it would have fit Warlord and Barbarian more, or something of that ilk.
See, that was like the name with Barbarian in the movie Body Slam, the Cannibals. That's such a great name. No one else used it, I guess, because of the whole stigma on cannibalism. The finishing maneuvers on this.
Cannibalism is really a maligned practice. Now, in certain cultures,
metaphorically speaking,
it's not frowned on.
Again, I don't know about those cultures, and I hope you don't either. On this figure here, the finishing maneuver for Tully, the pile driver punch for Arn, the spine buster slam
The pile driver punch?
I guess he just likes the alliteration. I'm not really sure. And finally, Jim, a set of figures, 3 to be exact, of Tatanka. We have Tatanka. Here's some soft goods in his Woodstock style shirt here thing with a tomahawk and his original white pants when he came in. And here's another one with the headdress that he received in a ceremony with Chief Wahoo McDaniel and Chief Jay Strongbow. And finally, a third one here with a heelish face holding a wad of money from when he accepted the $1 Million Man's deal. The Buffalo Bash. What are these other finishers here? The Buffalo Bash is one of them.
The Buffalo Bash?
The Tomahawk Chop and the Sell-Out Slam. Any thoughts on Tatanka, the Native American superstar?
Well, I'm glad he didn't use those finishes, names of finishes for real, but do you get like the 3 faces of Tatanka in the same package, or is it 3 variants, collect them all, kids?
3 separate figures. Again, one is the classic 1992 Tatanka, which is probably his coolest look. And then it's the more skimpier blue outfit that he started wearing in 1993.
No, that's when they told him to sex his shit up.
With the headdress.
Started wearing a skimpy clothing, yeah.
And then finally, he has a little snarl on his face here for the
yes,
$1 Million Man version.
I don't know that there's a ton of call for multiple Tatankas. I think one Tatanka might cover it, but that's just me.
All right, well,
I don't know that Tatanka ever reached the heights of Don Eagle or Chief Bigheart.
Well, again, those are some of the recent retro figures. And of course, if you want Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express figures, there's one place you can go, and that's Cornet's Collectibles at jimcornette.com.
That's exactly right. We already did the plug, though, earlier in the program. We'll do it again. Action figures toys. Now. We're talking about figures. All right. Well, I mentioned that if you want all the money to go to the talent instead of these greedy, grifty middlemen, go to jimcornette.com and order any of the Midnight Express action figures that come with autographed photos or the special collector's booklet or even the 4-pack with all of those things and a certificate of authenticity. And all the money goes right to the men whose sweat and blood and tears earned it, rather than these shifty tie-wearing sons of bitches on Wall Street. jimcornette.com. Do you know any shifty sons of bitches on Wall Street?
Well, of course, Jim, that makes you just want to put on your boots and stomp your way down there and get yourself a good deal, deal with these Wall Street people and have them say, hey, what are you wearing on your feet there? Looks like you could do anything in these great boots from Brunt.
Everybody take it to the top. We're gonna stomp all night. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what I can't wait for? I can't wait for 3 more days. I got my Brunt work boots weeks ago, and it has been so miserable in terms of weather that I've not been able to get out and wear them to the extent that I wanted to wear them. I did a little bit of creek work. I did a little bit of wheelbarrowing, but not nearly what I wanted to do. But now's the chance this weekend. It's going to be 80 degrees, dew points in the 50s, and I'm going to slide into my sweatpants and my long sleeve shirt so that the ticks can't get on me. And I'm going to slide into my comfortable Brunt work boots, and I'm going to go out and slop through shit. Just mud and shit and dirt, and I'm going to stomp bugs, and I'm going to haul things. I might climb a tree, Brian. Would you like to see me climb a tree?
I would actually pay to see you climb a tree. Yeah, I would, actually.
Well, goddamn, you start making bids, and I'll get the video camera revved up. Folks, you've had work boots that you just didn't like. They hurt your feet. They made blisters on you. I had some, the soles just flopped off. I had to duct tape them back. But Brunt, our friends over there, brought that to an end with their 2 most famous boots, the Marin and the Omen. They've each got their own features. You can go to bruntworkwear.com, bruntworkwear.com, and you can see, I was reading that in small print. And you can see what these daggum things look like. And the Marin is my favorite. They're lightweight, waterproof, slip and oil resistant, heat resistant. They're electrical hazard rated. That means you can climb telephone poles with them. and you can do a tightrope act on the electrical wires, and
No,
it won't electrocute you unless you grab a pigeon.
Again,
because then that grounds you to a mammal.
Let's not try that example. It doesn't sound like a wise thing to do, but these are great boots. I love them here. I know you love them.
Well, don't be squeezing pigeons just at random.
I don't squeeze any. I don't hurt animals. This is not what we do here.
Yes.
We just curse them.
Well, I'll tell you what, you put these Marin work boots on, they're completely waterproof. Whether it's rain, mud, or standing water, your feet are going to be dry. They've even got inserts you can adjust, so you adjust the snugness of the fit. And oily workshop floors, no problem. They've got tread. You can walk up the side of a building like you're Batman and Robin doing the bat rope climb.
Well, I don't know about that.
These things, they're so non-slick.
You know, they have to edit those out of the shows because of the rights issues with all the celebrities that made appearances in those.
Well, but it still happened.
Yeah, but
and they were wearing Brunt work boots.
Again, Brunt, these are the best. These are great. I love them.
Yes.
I can say that for real, but they don't make you walk sideways up buildings. That's not happening.
Well, you have to have a cape and a cowl on and be a crime fighter, and then you're endowed with special powers. But you don't have to sacrifice comfort or durability with the Brunt boots because they thought that was BS. So they built tough boots that feel great. And you know what? They actually, if you pet these boots, or maybe get your spouse to pet your feet while you're wearing the boots, it feels like just a wildlife creature. They're soft and furry.
Like boots, great boots.
Well, you can still pet them. And some people put these boots on before they engage in intimate activities because of the wonderful feel that they have anywhere for any activity.
And anyway,
you won't slip and fall out of bed. See, that's a thing.
No, you won't, ladies and gentlemen. And again, let's get back to the ground. As we said before, let's get grounded in reality. Brunt Workwear's great boots. We love them. Like you said, the Marin, fantastic boots. And Jim, we have a great deal.
They were tired is what they were. The people at Brunt were tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners because you work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots, especially when you're going to be hung upside down by them. Have you seen the Brunt inversion boots where you can just hook the hooks on and hang from a roof? But I'll tell you, folks, these are insanely comfortable, built for any job site, and for a limited time, our listeners can get $10 off at bruntworkwear.com. BRUNT rhymes with something I won't say. Bruntworkwear.com. Use the promo code JCE by Cracky, and you're going to get $10 off either pair of these fine boots or any other types of boots that you'd like to buy. Bruntworkwear.com. Use the promo code JCE, $10 off. And then they're going to ask you, how did you hear about us? You better not stooge us off. No, actually, you're supposed to tell them.
No, please tell them. Please tell them you heard about it here. That actually helps us, Jim.
Yeah, well, that does it. Normally, you don't name names. You don't want to name names. You go, I don't know anything. But in this case, go ahead and name names.
Without permission.
Feel like a student,
you don't name names without the
us.
Person's permission. That's what it is. We're giving permission.
Well, we're giving you blanket permission. Name our names.
Say our names.
Say my name, bitch. Bruntworkwear.com.
All right. Well, this is gonna be more fun now here, Jim. Let's get some more questions and the like here on the show. This next email was sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com. This is from Derek.
Hey, Derek.
Good afternoon, Jim. I hope this email finds you well. I'll cut right to the chase. In years past, I was a security guard for the city of Louisville.
Oh, good Lord.
And occasionally worked the defunct Louisville Gardens. One evening, I was killing time by browsing the garden's records room, and came across a 1979 letter to Jerry Jarrett from a group of angry Louisville mothers. It appears that someone associated with Louisville wrestling swindled a group of kids out of their money by promising to train them as wrestlers and never following through. The letter is transcribed, to the best of my ability here. Mr. Jerry Jarrett, we are writing to see if you could help us. We have tried everyone else, so we're writing to you and troubleshooter. Again, I don't know if that's what it's supposed to say there.
Well, and troubleshooter, they had a troubleshooting consumer affairs column in the newspaper here back in those days. So maybe that's the way they worded that possibly.
In July, the paper had an ad for the kids that take wrestling training. We called, and a man came down. His name is Ronnie Elligood.
Oh, my God!
He said he is your cousin.
Oh, my God!
Okay, I don't know who this man is, but obviously you do.
Oh, boy, Ronnie Elligood.
Elligood, okay, there it is. We called the YMCA to make sure, and he said he worked for them. He didn't tell us to take the money to the YMCA. He took it on August the 3rd and was supposed to bring our contract, and we didn't see him after that. We called the YMCA and even went up there and talked to a man by the name of Larry Palmer. He said if the kids got their money back, they could take the training, or he would get a hold of him. We keep calling, but nothing is ever done. They see Mr. Elligood at wrestling every week, and he keeps giving the runaround, but never the money. He said you and Jerry Lawler would help train them. How many more kids has he done this to? All the kids are teenagers, and 2 of us are on Social Security and 2 out of work.
Oh, good Lord.
How would you like for someone to eat and drink at your table, then take their money on false pretense? I know, Mr. Jarrett, you wouldn't want someone to do that to your child. He's at wrestling every week and sells pictures, and he said he was a wrestler. That gives wrestling a bad name. Here are the names of the children, and there are several children. I won't give their last names. Larry, $17, age 13. Ernest, $17, age 13. All of them $17. Lester, age 14. Bobby, age 17. Donald,
oh, good God,
age 18. And Barry, age 17. This is signed by 3 concerned mothers. I won't give their names here, Jim. Back to the letter from Derek. Jim, being the authority on Louisville wrestling that you are, I thought that perhaps you might know something about this no-good charlatan, Ronnie Elligood. Do you have any knowledge about the cast of characters mentioned in the letter? Do you know if those poor kids ever got their $17 back? Or if they ultimately attended Mr. Elligood's wrestling training? I would love to hear your comments on the matter. Thank you for all the great work you do and the countless hours of entertainment.
Well, this is news to me, and truthfully, I'm sure when they got the letter, they just dismissed it out of hand because the only relationship that Ronnie Elligood ever had to Louisville wrestling was when he bought a ticket every week to come to the fucking matches because he was the biggest mark in the world. And I don't know that Christine Jarrett or anybody would have even recognized his name because I had been a fan and had, gotten to know some of the regular characters that came to the matches. That's why I immediately knew his name because he's got to be dead by now. If I was in 1977, if I was 16, he was easily 20 or 25 years older than me. So he's dead now, but it's not like I care about hurting his feelings anyway. He was the biggest country dumb fuck goof in the Louisville Gardens. He had a bald, kind of protruding forehead, and he talked like this. Oh, yeah, I'm right. And if somebody walked up to the merchandise table and asked one of the other fans that had maybe been out in the back alley waiting for the guys to come in so they could see him, wave at him, whatever, they'd say, Did Jerry Lawler show up yet? He would butt in and say, no, he's riding up here with one of my other cousins. Because he was cousins with Jerry Lawler, and he was cousins with Jerry Jarrett. He was cousins with everybody. And as I said, just You could tell he didn't, I don't know if he had a job but he didn't have a job that required him to do anything other than change oil or something. He was always disheveled and, looked like a bumfuck. And his brother Plowboy, that's what we used to call his brother, was like 325 pounds with this giant bucket head. And he made Ronnie look like a fucking MIT scholar. And we used to call him Plowboy after Frazier because he would just wander around like a goddamn Tor Johnson would have played him in a 50s science fiction movie. But he couldn't train anybody how to do anything. And these young teenagers, he sold them a bill of goods. He said that he was cousins with all these big time wrestlers. Truthfully and honestly, the concerned parents, if any of these parents had ever seen this guy for 30 seconds, they would have said, no, you're not giving this guy any money. And it wasn't some kind of ring boy deal. I'm not saying that was involved. It's just that this was another example of a guy that had to magnify his importance to all the other fans. I'm related to these guys. I'm in with this. I can get your boys wrestling lessons. Why? Yeah, just give me $17 8 times in 1979 and I'll get Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett to teach them how to wrestle.
At the YMCA.
You wouldn't believe this guy. Yeah, you wouldn't believe this guy if he said he was going to walk your dog for $1 if you saw him in person. So that's but again, there was no way to find out about these things in those days. If you were just a gullible person with kids that wanted to learn how to wrestle, shit like that could happen if you didn't watch out.
Was he there throughout, like when you were managing? Was he still attending the shows?
Oh God, yes. I'm sure he might have just decomposed in the 6th row.
All right, Jim.
And there was one old fan, they called him Grandpa. He was in the same seat, in the same row, in the same section of ringside for so many years that one week he was in the hospital to have something done, and they had to announce at intermission that he was sick this week, but he'd be back next week because so many people were asking about it.
Well, again, a different world, the relationship people had with wrestling when it was a weekly thing. That kind of sets us up for our next question here, Jim. This one was sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group by Tony Felice. At what point in wrestling history did promoters decide to start booking weekly towns? Was the demand for weekly events already existing, or was that demand created via promotion, TV, newspapers, etc.? Why was the weekly town concept limited primarily to southern territories, while the Northeast and AWA territories opted for monthly shows?
Well, it's nothing new, and it wasn't caused by the TV revolution or modern communications or whatever. Louisville was oftentimes, there were some interruptions, but oftentimes was a weekly town in the 30s. In short version, the reason why that there's a kind of a southern or even a southwestern and northern break in that and Midwestern is because the bigger cities, the buildings cost more to rent and the expenses were more for promotion and etc. Even the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles, big city, but they ran every week because the fucking building was there and it was dedicated for the most part to boxing and wrestling. But if you got Madison Square Garden, even if there was in the hottest periods of the Garden in the 50s under Rocca and Perez, you wouldn't have been able to put 20,000 people in there every week, even though they were doing it maybe every 3 weeks or once a month, and the expenses would quadruple. But by the same token, in the southern markets, the southern towns, the buildings were usually smaller. And especially in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, before the major sports arenas began being built, wrestling was a more popular professional sport in the 30s and 40s than and certainly more profitable for the participants, as we've been talking about. The wrestlers made more money than football players did in the NFL or the baseball players, et cetera, unless you were Mickey Mantle. But there weren't that many sports arenas. So the southern towns would go weekly and try to get the same 3,000 people there, more or less thereabouts, to come every week. And we've talked about that the biggest arena in the state of Kentucky until the 50s was the Armory, Louisville Gardens, that seated in those days like tops out at 9,000 people for boxing and wrestling. And it wasn't until they built the Memorial Gym in Lexington and then Freedom Hall in 1957 here that there was a arena in the state that seated over 10,000 people. So that's why a lot of times and the same thing in Dallas, the Sportatorium, but they owned the fucking building, right? You established, there's geographically all over the country, there have been weekly towns in any area, but it would generally be a smaller building in the metropolitan area of a bigger city. And Brian, we're going to talk about stuff I learned at the Pfeffer collection of how even when they weren't running Madison Square Garden in New York in that period in the 40s, they were running 5 or 6 nights a week live wrestling events in the metropolitan area. Just smaller buildings, but they were running weekly. So that was the trade-off you made. Vern didn't want to run the smallest building in Minneapolis once a week. When he got bigger, he wanted to run the big building once a month. And that's the same thing that happened in Atlanta. The City Auditorium seated 6,000 or 7,000, cheap rent. Every Friday night, boom. Once the auditoriums closed, they couldn't rent the Omni every fucking week. And that's what started leading to the downfall of Atlanta business when the only option they had was an 18,000 seat modern arena that they had to run once a month. Does that kind of give the people an idea of what it's not a rule of thumb. You could go anywhere, but the weekly towns were generally mid-sized markets and mid-sized buildings and relying on regular clientele to where if you had Knoxville, Tennessee or Nashville, Tennessee or Louisville, Kentucky that would sell 150 to 200,000 tickets a year, there was, a major linchpin in your territory.
Jim, we received a couple of questions about the same topic, so I'm going to read you both of them. This first one was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Quiet Dignity and Grace.
Is that a funeral home?
I always wanted to know where the DDT came from. Is it named after the wrestler that came up with the maneuver? Do the initials stand for something? Just a few thoughts that keep me awake at night while listening to your history lessons. And then it says here, is it don't do this? Done dementing trauma? And then the second question on the same topic from James, Yorkshire, England. I've noticed that most of the time the wrestler giving the DDT will slap the opponent's back before delivering the move. Why is that? I always figured it was a cue to the other wrestler, but don't they always do it? And it seems very obvious. Is there another reason I'm missing?
Yes, there is. You're missing a lot. What's this fellow's name?
Well, this was James. The first one was
James, you've missed everything. No. Well, first of all, the slap on the back. Yeah, Jake popularized the DDT. There has been evidence that Black Gordman was doing a maneuver like that, just as a maneuver in his matches before Jake. Jake says that, well, it was a mistake. He had a front face lock on one night and his opponent was pushing him backwards and he tripped. That's bullshit. The thing is, when Jake popularized the DDT and used it as his finish, and it was most deadly and put over as, the finish of the thing, it made sense when done exactly as he did it. Think about this. You put the guy in a front face lock. You're standing in front of him. He's bent over. You've got your arm around his neck. and you're going to fall backwards and you're going to drive his face into the fucking mat. And what visually would even accentuate that, because Jake is a genius at, as we've talked about it, being visual and making sure people get the idea until he, in his later years got sideways. But what would accentuate that more is if you raise that long arm of Jake's is all the way up in the air and then bring it down with somewhat level of violence and slap the guy's back. As you drop, it looks like you're even pushing him down more. You see what I'm saying, Brian? So boom, the slap on the back combined with the fall, and the guy takes a bump right on his fucking chest and face, and that's it, lights out. That's the way Jake did it. Well, then everybody started to, I can take the bump a different way. I can spike myself and do a headstand on my head straight up in the air with my feet. Or I'll take the bump and I'll roll over frontwards like it turned me a forward roll. Or now some guys are just slapping the back because they didn't even bother to think through why Jake was doing, and it just sounds cool or whatever. But that's why all those variations came about, because they decided, well, we can do it better or different or make it prettier or whatever. And that's why we're still talking about Jake when we're talking about the DDT, because he's the one that got it over and did it right and made sense and protected it.
What'd you think about, like, when in WCW, or when it just became WCW, you had both Arn Anderson and the Freebirds doing the rolling DDT, where you don't go. I didn't mind. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, yes. Well, I know the rolling thing where you kind of boom and you're going over, but I didn't mind when Arn did it, because Arn was so quick with that and the spine buster, and he'd snatch the DDT sometimes when people tried to duck his punch. The Freebirds doing the DDT is, because that's the thing is, that wasn't even the real Freebirds. Hayes and Garvin, I mean, come on. Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin with Precious was great. Jimmy Garvin as a Freebird was because he and Michael were friends, and they talked him into it. And Michael, his work was best done outside managing Buddy and Terry, and being the speaker as far as in the ring. So it was hard working with that version of the Freebirds. The DDTs were nothing to write home about.
And in terms of the name, it's based on DDT, isn't it?
Oh, well, that's why I can't pronounce it. You might be able to Google it and work out phonetically, but DDT was a pesticide. I can't believe it's been so long now. I'm having to tell the kids this. DDT was a pesticide that they were using in the 70s that was fucking dangerous and deadly and poisonous, and it caused cancer and all kinds of rot. And it was federally banned because it was too dangerous for humans to be exposed to. DDT, that was the name of the pesticide. So it became this perfect name for a wrestling move.
I'm going to screw up the quote, but I think once Jake was asked, like, early on TV, like, what does DDT stand for? Or what does DDT mean? And I think his answer was, the end. That's great. Yeah.
Well, it was like an earlier version of, what was that stuff they were spraying on weed to kill weed 30 years ago? The government was, and then it was going to kill the people that were smoking the weed also. It was the earlier version of that, but they were using it on actual crops that we were then going to digest.
All right, that was a very pleasant note there. Jim, let's move on here with another question. This one, it's actually a couple questions here, was sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group by Anthony Muriel. I know you have spoken about the split between Jarrett and Goulas, and a possible split between Lawler and Jarrett. Two things. How would Memphis Wrestling be if the split never happened? Also, and this is a separate question, how would Georgia Wrestling be if Ann Gunkel had won the Georgia Wars? Those were two pivotal moments in Southern wrestling. I'm curious how different those territories would be given everything that took place.
Good Lord, that might be an essay question that we shouldn't have tackled at the end of the program, but briefly.
It's a great question. What ifs? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing is with the Tennessee War, the thing that they were doing incredible business in both ends of the territory. At that time, Nick's end, Nashville, Birmingham, Chattanooga, was still doing good business. In 1977, 78, they were still doing decent houses in Nashville, but actually Chattanooga and Birmingham were always bigger towns for Nick going back to the 50s and 40s than Nashville because of the size of the buildings. But Jarrett had made Memphis and Louisville and then Lexington, he hadn't opened it yet in 77. He'd made Memphis and Louisville pretty much the number 1 and number 2 towns in the territory. And so if they hadn't split, if Nick had still had control, I don't know that what happened to Nick's towns, Nashville, Chattanooga, and Birmingham would have also happened to Memphis, Louisville, and later Lexington, because it was 2 different talent crews for the most part and 2 different booking operations, but it would have hampered Jarrett's expansion to make his towns bigger because Nick's at the same time were going down. So Jarrett divested himself of having to deal with the money losing half of the territory, and that's what Nick kept. Jarrett's got bigger and Nick's got smaller.
In terms of that split, what if the split doesn't happen? How do you see?
Well, that's what I'm saying is the Nick's end may have eventually drug. I mean, they had to break up sooner or later, but Nick's end would have drug Jarrett's end down more.
Well, that's the big thing, I guess. Do you think the breakup had to happen, or is there a way that for the next 4 or 5 years, Nick and Jerry Jarrett are partners and Jerry Jarrett's running the show?
I don't think Nick and Jerry could have been partners because Nick would have rather been partners with George. That's the problem to begin with. George Goulas was the reason why Jarrett finally said, I'm not bringing George to Memphis. I've seen what he's done to these other towns, or what he's doing to these other towns. They were still okay, but they wouldn't be long. Without Nick being able to, even though it was 2 territories under one basic office, Nick still had access to guys that were coming in to work for Jarrett and vice versa. So his town stayed strong, even if Jarrett wasn't booking them. But when it was a choice, you had to go to Tennessee to work for either Jerry Jarrett or Nick Goulas. All the talent came to work for Jarrett. And Nick's territory, same thing as Sheik and Bruiser. Sheik was making shots. It was Luke Graham, the Sheik, Abdullah the Butt. It was the Over the Hill gang, plus George and others that Nick could afford. And that's what killed Chattanooga, Birmingham. And he lost Birmingham to the Fullers. He lost Chattanooga to Georgia. And then he finally ended up selling Nashville to Jarrett for a mercy payoff 3 years after the split. Because he just couldn't get the talent and the booking was old, the territory was stale, and he was still featuring George. He didn't learn anything.
Were there ever issues pre-split with Lawler? Actually, I don't know. How much was Lawler working Nashville pre-split? And were there ever issues about him not working there enough considering how much he went to Memphis?
He worked Nashville all the time when Nick owned it because he was still living in Nashville. And finally, when Jarrett split off, that's when he moved to Memphis, and he didn't want to work Nashville on Saturday nights. But he was in Nashville a lot in the days when he was working with Fargo and Dundee and all those guys. You know, he was an attraction in Nashville. And that's why 74, 75, 76 was really strong. And then 77, all the established talent people gave a shit about went to work for Jarrett, and Nick was bringing in, guys that he could afford, and he had George and Bobby Eaton, bless him.
Do you think Jerry Jarrett's wrestling would have done better than, as good as, just about the same, whatever it may be, to Southeastern wrestling, which would get a lot of those towns?
Yeah, I think Chattanooga had been with Goulas and Welch since like 1950, I believe. But it made more sense geographically to be part of the Georgia territory. And the TV was, after Nick and Roy had Harry Thornton as a partner, a local Chattanooga TV personality and morning show host, etc., that's where they had the great run, where they'd sell 20,000 tickets a month sometimes at the old Chattanooga Memorial Auditorium, weekly shows. But by the mid-'70s, Chattanooga's so close to Atlanta, they're seeing these big main event, all the top stars in the NWA coming into Atlanta, and they're still getting Nick's guys. And so Chattanooga just kind of, Nick started bringing in Georgia talent to help draw, and they ended up taking it over. And with Birmingham, that was the same thing. The Fullers just took it. They had better talent, a better show, and all Nick was left with was Nashville.
The Georgia War. What happens if Van Gunkel wins? What happens if somehow, and it's crazy to try to figure out the scenario that it would happen based on everything that did happen and the problems they had. But if by 1974, the NWA Georgia office was getting their ass kicked and Gunkel Promotions was winning, what happens next?
If Gunkel had been able to prevail in Atlanta, that still wouldn't mean that the NWA thought any better about him. And I think the problems would have existed that they still, let's say that the same talent, because you've said, and it's true, that Gunkel couldn't get any talent and it just got stale and stagnant, and she had nobody to bring in to replace the people that were over initially for her, right? That still would have been the case, even if she'd won in Atlanta, even if those guys in Atlanta would have drawn money for the next 5 years straight. I think it would have damaged Atlanta in terms of being a wrestling center. The TV ratings would not have stayed as high to keep the 2-hour Saturday night block. And it certainly wouldn't have been the late 70s must-see cable TV show with stars from all over the country, from Florida, from Georgia, from the WWF, from wherever, everybody from Dusty to Andre. If it had just been Ann Gunkel and the rest of the promoters still cutting her off for major name talent. So then technically, even if she'd been successful in Atlanta, it wouldn't have been a national product that would have sold on television, that people would have watched, that would have turned into Georgia Championship Wrestling, the top-rated station on TBS, that would have turned into Crockett's program, that would have turned into WCW. So she may have won the war, but then there wouldn't have been the other two wars the next 20 years. What do you think?
Do you see the NWA accepting her? If she wiped out Georgia Championship Wrestling, again, I don't know how that would happen. If Barnett doesn't come back and somehow she wins with the talent she has, if there's no one else running against her, and again, I don't know how that would happen, would the NWA accept her, you think?
Well, would she have wanted the NWA to accept her? Would she have applied if she was still doing well? Think about that.
If it was the key to talent, if it was the key to more talent.
Well, but then at the same time, the NWA'd be pissed. See, the Bruiser, he didn't really use NWA talent, but nobody fucked with him for owning his home state. It was coexistence, right? And that had happened in other places, but not an NWA office hadn't had some opposition come in and run them off and put them out of business and take over a market. Can you think of San Francisco? Joe Malkowitz got taken over by Ray Shire. or Royshire rather.
Royshire. Ray was his brother.
Ray was his brother. Yes. Well, it's late in the day. But at the same time, I just saw letters I mentioned, I think, the other day from Gilzenberg to Jack Pfeffer said, I guess poor old Joe's never going to get his territory sorted out. They knew that with Goulas and Jarrett, they knew the NWA knew this. Our member is an idiot and he's going to lose this. So we're not even going to fuck with it. But when it was a legitimate office doing well and these upstarts take everything and fucking go off, they wouldn't have taken a loss very well of one of their major markets. They would have probably tried to fight. But I can't see Ann Gunkel prevailing and that company being the national powerhouse that the Georgia program turned out to be, that the Crockett program turned out to be, and then the WCW turned out to be. So it might have helped her in the short run, but it would taken away a big opposing soldier in the war against New York.
Well, one way or another, Tom Ernesto was booking. Jim, one final question here this week. This was sent by Bobby Lamar Shea, or CA. I don't know what this is. Jim, what is the cure for the summertime blues?
Well, there ain't no cure for the summertime blues, is there?
Well, with that, we are out of here.
Just play some more of that. That'll cure anybody's blues.
Songs return next week. Send in your song submissions, parody songs, songs about the show, whatever it may be. CornyDriveThru@gmail.com. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette. Full episodes, clips of the episodes, omnibus collections, Travis Heckel artwork, guest artwork from George. So much going on. Subscribe today. And of course, go through the archive. Patreon.com/Cornette. $5 a month. Get you access to the archive going back to 2013. Patreon.com/Cornette. Cornet's Collectibles at JimCornette.com. There's already been 2 plugs. Go there right now at JimCornette.com. The drive-thru is brought to you by the loves of Stephen P. New. Jim, anything to say about Stephen P. New?
Yes, I do have something to say. If you're mad at some of the people that we're mad at, you have a reason to sue them. We'll call him and we'll all sue him together. It's already happening and interesting things are going to take place.
Party is happening. That makes no sense. There's a lot going on. Hear more about it next time. Stephen P. New, 877-50-STEVE. Get even with Stephen, newlawoffice.com. But that's it. It is hot. We're silly. We're out of here for Jim Cornette. I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!
Oh!